this Pompano Beach City Commission meeting to order, May 28th, 2024, at 6 p.m. Let's go ahead. If I could ask everyone to please silence their cell phones or put them on vibrate. That way we don't get disrupted during the meeting. So please silence your cell phones. Appreciate it. Now if we can go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier?
Here.
Commissioner Moss?
Here.
Commissioner Perkins?
Here.
Commissioner Segerson-Eaton?
Here.
Vice Mayor McGee?
Here.
Mayor Harden?
Here, our invocation this evening is going to be given by the Minister Jamal McLemore from the Jesus Supernatural Life Center. So if we can all please rise to the invocation, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Looks like we're shy. Very good. Father, give us the wisdom to consider this agenda before us this evening. Do the best for the citizens of Pompano Beach, following your will. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Right. Can I get a motion approving the regular City Commission meeting minutes of May 14th, 2024?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. On our agenda this evening, are there any changes, Mr. Harrison?
No, sir.
Very good. Can I get a motion approving the agenda as printed?
So moved. Second.
And seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. On our consent agenda this evening, we will be pulling item number 3 for individual discussion. So all other items on the consent agenda will be eligible for discussion during audience to be heard. So item number 3, it will be discussed individually. Very good. Thank you. That takes us up to our special presentation, which is a legislative update. State Senator Jason Pizzo, District 37, will provide a legislative update to the commission and residents. Good evening, Senator, and thank you for being here. Appreciate it, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you so much for having me. I'll be what most politicians are not, which is brief, because as you know, I represent 20 cities, and 3 of you decided to have the meeting on the same night. It's absolutely fine. If everybody, you do have permission to take out your cell phones, because when I finish, I'm going to give you my cell phone number. If you have any questions or issues, I'm your state senator. Guys, you pay for my health insurance. So you can take out your phones and write down my number. Let's start with the bucks. Last year, I know we came in at $1.1 million on Pompano Beach septic to sewer project that the governor did not veto. You also, through Senator Polsky, were able to get the Riverside Safety and Resilience Project funded. This year, the city of Pompano had asked for the Dixie Highway Safety and Resilience Project of $1 million. The governor has not signed the budget yet, but that is funded for the full $1 million.
Right.
As well as partial funding, I think $500,000 of the $900 you asked for under Senator Polsky for the stormwater sub-basin project. A couple things to go over quickly. Roughly a couple thousand, 2,100 bills are filed. Some of you came up and visited and got on my ear about a number of issues, which we really appreciate. All of you took advantage of meeting with me one-on-one. I have 137 elected officials underneath us. We represent 575,000 people. Each and every one of you, this was only one of 2 cities that took advantage, each commissioner, of having a one-on-one meeting before I went to session. Because what happens is it's go slow, hurry up, we're in session, and there's rapid fire texting while we're on the floor. What the hell is this bill, and how are you voting? So I appreciate that well in advance of being prepared. I also want to thank BSO. Last August, we did our ride-along. We do ride-alongs with all of our cities. Lieutenant Julian Ulvang took me to an interesting Mexican restaurant afterwards, but it was fun. And this year, actually, proudly, I won Broward PBA Legislator of the Year. So I was very thankful for that, and FOP as well. So we have a short-term rental bill that passed, but we think we laid a pretty good record on the floor. There's a special carve-out just for the House Speakers County of Flagler, so we think that's rather infirm, so we expect the governor to be vetoing that shortly. Again, he has not signed the budget. There are a number of tax holidays coming up. Most importantly, June 1st, obviously this Saturday begins hurricane season officially. There's a number of hurricane disaster preparedness tax holidays for a number of items, as well as recreational items as well, beginning July 1st. We're doing the toll relief program again, another $450 million in refunds and rebates to drivers. If you recently, in the past several months, got a new driver's license and you had a problem at the airport with TSA, I'm seeing some head nods. please contact us. You get a free reprint at a DMV, and we can also help you get an appointment within one day or two and not have to wait 3 weeks or wait in line for 4 hours. I don't do potholes, we do driver's licenses, so that's basically our function. This past session, I know it's a good bill because my kids hate it, my 17-year-old twins, but I passed a street racing and street takeover bill. If you'll notice, at a number of intersections, you have these cars that just take over. First responders, fire, rescue, and BSO can't get in. Now all they have to do, under 90115 Florida statute, there's now a misdemeanor presence exception, which means all they have to do is look at some kid's Instagram account, and they can go make an arrest and actually seize vehicles as well. Kids are finding out real fast that we're not going to tolerate it anymore, especially with a lot of injuries and actually a couple of deaths that we've had. The big one, the big bill that I filed 5 years ago that passed this past session with Senator Bradley from Jacksonville is the condo bill that I know is causing a lot of angst and concern amongst a number of people. Tomorrow night I'll be at Palm Air with Commissioner Moss to talk to the Pompano community. And I think Vice Mayor McGee would also probably like to have one also on the east side as well. It's a lot. It is a bittersweet I told you so for me, because when I first filed it, interest rates were a third of what they are now. Insurance was 60% less than it is now. Labor and materials were obviously a lot less as well. So it's an expensive, tough love measure. I get it. But we've had artificially suppressed association fees at too many associations for so long. They never even tracked inflation, much less CPI. So the price of everything has gone up. I understand it. I appreciate that, and I'm sensitive to it. Of the 40 senators that we have in the upper chamber of the third largest state in the country, I'm the only one that lives in a condo. So I'm not asking my constituents, my residents to do or to have to spend anything that I wouldn't do myself or not suffering through myself. Again, a couple thousand bills, 192, 193 passed. We expect the short-term rental bill to be vetoed, but we have to draft something in response as well going forward. But I'm happy to take any questions, anything having to do with any particular part of the city as well.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Any questions for the Senator from the Commissioner? Questions, comments? Very good. Well, thank you. Thank you for all you do up there and locally and
305 505 8478. 305 505 8478. Thank you so much.
Very good. Appreciate it. Thank you, Senator. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate your support up in Tallahassee. Thank you so much. All right, that takes us up to proclamation honoring Captain Martin W. Hedlund, Sr. Mayor Rex Hardin will honor Captain Martin W. Hedlund, Sr. for 36 years of service with Broward Sheriff's Office and for his service to the city of Pompano Beach. Yeah. I'll be right over here. Yes. Yes.
All right. And also, I'd like to recognize somebody in the audience here with us tonight. We've got our former Chief of Police, Wayne Atkins, with us this evening. Good evening. Thank you for being here, Wayne. Yes. You know, it's rare when you have people who spend their life helping a city, and this gentleman, he's spent his life helping our city. Marty, you've done a great job. I mean, thank you so much for all you've done throughout the years, for the residents, the city, for me personally. This is truly a bittersweet moment. But it had to come sooner or later. You can't keep doing what you love forever. We're all getting older. Things hurt worse than they used to. And hey, it happens. So whereas today we honor and celebrate the distinguished 36-year career of Captain Martin W. Hedlund, Sr. And whereas Captain Hedlund was born and raised in Pompano Beach and graduated from Deerfield Beach High School in 1983. He has lived in Pompano Beach his entire life, and since 1991 has lived with his wife and 2 sons in the house his grandfather built in 1957 in the city of Pompano Beach. And whereas Captain Hedlund began his law enforcement career on October 14, 1988, when he joined the Pompano Beach Police Department, where he served as a road patrol officer, field training officer, and auto theft detective. After the merger with the Broward County Sheriff's Office in 1999, Martin was promoted to sergeant and lieutenant, and during that time he supervised criminal investigations and child protective services, and in 2017 was named Pompano Beach Executive Lieutenant for Area 1. He was promoted to Pompano Beach Executive Captain in 2019, where he has served until his retirement. And whereas Captain Hedin has been recognized throughout his career by members of the Pompano Beach Police Department, the Broward County Sheriff's Office, multiple service clubs of Broward County, including the Rotary Club and the Greater Pompano Beach Chamber of Commerce, the University of Miami, and the Autism Society of Florida. And whereas Captain Hedin has earned and maintained the confidence and support of the residents of Pompano Beach, while leading by example over his career and by demonstrating his core values of competence, courage, integrity, leadership, respect, and restraint. And whereas Captain Hedin has been a champion in Pompano Beach, Broward County, and the entire state of Florida for the autism community, he has volunteered and trained over 3,000 first responders on how to better engage and communicate with persons living with autism. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Rex Hedin, Mayor of the City of Pompano Beach, on behalf of the entire Commission and residents, do hereby proclaim Captain Martin Hedin is highly deserving of this special commendation for his dedicated service and leadership in the City of Pompano Beach. And I urge all residents and employees to join me in congratulating Captain Martin Hedin for his outstanding contributions to our community. Done this 28th day of May, 2024, Rex Hedin, Mayor. Marty, we salute you and we thank you. Thank you, sir. Yes. All right, now you're going to have to say a few words, Marty, but once you finish with that, don't sit down because we got some other folks who want to say a few words too. But first, the microphone is yours, buddy.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commission, City Manager, and thank you all for taking the time to show up tonight. I know you're here for other business, but I'm going to say it's for me just because I've got somewhat of an ego. This time, 1988, was when I was filling out my application for the City of Pompano Beach Police Department. The proclamation that I'm receiving tonight, or have received, should really be going back to the City of Pompano, because for some reason, they took a chance on a 22-year-old kid to come and work and enforce the laws and ordinances of Pompano Beach. I don't know what they saw in me. My mother will tell you, they saw you, Martin, they saw you. Which she's probably right, because she always was. But I can tell you that this city has played a part in the Hedin family, and now Team Hedin family, since 1947 when my parents got here. My father ran a business here for 40 plus years, right over on Southeast 20th Avenue. He met my mother at Bob Poole's Jewelers in Old Pompano, what is called Old Town now. Everything the Team Hedin, or the Hedin family, has got since post-World War II has some ties to the city of Pompano Beach. And it's that loyalty, that presence, that award, that reward, whatever you want to call it, is what has driven me and my siblings to give back to this city. It was never about us. It was always about what the city has done for us. And that was programmed into us to take care of this city, nurture this city, and the folks that live within it. So as you roll through the early part of my life, as you get out of high school and you're wondering, what am I going to do? My mom ain't going to let me live here forever. God knows my dad wasn't. So you got to do something. I went out and tried a few things, and that blew up on the launching pad almost immediately. And then I go back to what my guidance counselor told me. If you you're not going to play Major League Baseball, you should be a law enforcement officer. So since I'm 5'6" nothing and ran out of talent at about the college level, I said, you know what, that police thing might do something for me. Lo and behold, the city hires me, and I go into law enforcement. Couldn't pick a prouder profession to be a part of. The family, within the family, with the City of Pompano Beach Police Department, and then with my brothers and sisters in the Broward Sheriff's Office. This has been one of the most rewarding things that I have done in my life, second only to my beautiful wife, Margie, and my sons, Martin and Dalton. I thank you all very much. Again, thank you for the proclamation, but it really should come back to the City of Pompano, who has given me and my family a blessing that I can never repay. Thank you all very much. I appreciate you all.
All right, now if I could ask Stacy Hoagland to come forward from the president of the Autism Society of Florida. Please, Stacy.
I'll be quick. I just want you guys to know that I've been very fortunate to know Team Hedin for, I think it's about 12 years. Because I think the boys were like 4. They were coming out of preschool. And they are, within the autism community across the state of Florida, they are viewed as a powerhouse. The benefits that they bring to all people with autism is literally off the chain. So many lives that they touch that they will never know that they actually touch. And so other than the 3,000 officers, which I think actually is an underestimation, I think it's more like 510, but officers and military as well. It's not just police officers, but military, other first responders, fire, security, they provide the training to all of them. And actually, we started something that's called Tour de Force, where we bring adults with autism into police departments to get a tour of the facility when it's not a stressful situation. And that was another thing that was spearheaded by Team Hedin. So I cannot thank Captain Hedin enough and his beautiful family for the lives that they touch, that again, they will never truly realize just how far-reaching the benefits that you all have reaped here in Pompano Beach by having him, that his benefits and his blessings will go on and on throughout the state of Florida and beyond. So thank you.
Very good, very good. Anybody else like to come forward and say a few words? Very good. Marty, let's tell you what, let's see if it's right up here in front of you. Come on, here we go. Come on, guys. Doesn't happen every day.
I'm sorry. Wayne, would you please come up? Bless you. You just have to be heard, don't you, son?
She tells everybody where to go. And they listen.
If I mess this up, I'm in big trouble. You guys who know Margie know. Right, awesome.
Marty, thank you so much for everything, seriously. You have touched so many lives in a positive manner. Seriously, thank you so much for all you've done. All right. That takes us up to audience to be heard. Do we have anyone signed up for audience to be heard, Kervin?
Yes, Mayor, we have 8 speakers.
Very good. Let's get started.
Okay, first speaker, Ken Arnold, followed by David Miller, followed by David Hall.
Just name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Three minutes.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today. Recent decision to having only one travel team in which is the Florida Pokers, the impact of which our community. Historically, the rec baseball provided structure, exclusive systems for young athletes, kids to participate in the city league, move on to all-stars, had an option to play rec travel baseball. The system allowed diverse coaching philosophies and ensured opportunities for all players regardless of their financial background. A recent decision to limit athletes to a single travel team creates a monopoly. That is not in the best interest of the community. I speak firsthand. Both I and players like James Cote, Paul Setter, DJ Fencermaker have endured manipulation, mobbing, unfair treatment, and discrimination at the hands of coaches that were associated with the Florida Pokers. Allowing them the exclusive control over travel baseball risk exposure more than athletes to a negative experience. I propose that we support rec travel baseball would allow kids to develop their baseball skills without a financial burden of joining a single business-ran travel team. Rec baseball is funded by fundraisers and parents' community. Its cost to the city is nothing, yet it has been an inspirational developing of young talent and fostering the love for the game. Travel baseball should not be sacrificed by the beneficial of single organization. Furthermore, Amendment 25, Section 250, 251, 253, City Charter raises concern. Rumors suggest that these charges are driven by efforts to allow the Florida Pokers to acquire city-owned land for the training facility and move current law restricted. The potential conflict of interest called for greater transparency, fairness, and decision-making process. The benefit of rec travel baseball is numerous. It keeps kids engaged, provides lower cost alternatives to travel baseball. It ensures enjoyment of the game rather than treating the job. It also allows families to stay connected and involved without financial time and burdens of doing excess travel. I urge Commission to reconsider recent decisions considered to support rec travel baseball, maintain a fair, competitive, enriching environment, and youth athletes. This is not about baseball, it's providing children an opportunity to grow, learn, enjoy childhood. Right now, we have one travel team that's been in Pompano for 2 years by Rick Vesey. He was in Pompano baseball program. He has a rec league, it's not a travel team, and right now, he can't even get a field in Pompano to practice on because they're all monopolized by one team. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Dr. Arnold, just name and address for the record real quick, sorry.
Kenneth Arnold, Pompano Beach, 1849 East Atlantic Boulevard. Thank you.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Moss.
the last time Dr. Arnold appeared before us, we asked the city manager or the Parks and Recreation Department to draw up some kind of a summary of what these issues are, because I'm totally unaware of what they are. So we know what the status of that is?
I do not. Mr. Harrison, do you?
No, sir, I do not. I will make sure we have that by the next commission meeting, though.
Okay, thanks very much.
Yeah, as far as, I spoke with Dr. Arnold previously, and as far as having more than one travel team, I don't have any problem with that, and I don't know anybody who would have a problem with that as far as multiple travel teams. Commissioner Fournier.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a new travel program, but they're not monopolizing the fields. It's Pompano Rec Baseball that's using the fields every night. It is a city recreational program. It costs $25. You get a hat, you get socks, you get a shirt. That's the program that's using the fields right now, and it is well attended and going well. The travel is new, and I don't think there's any reason why the prospects aren't able to use fields still, so I look forward to the memo.
Very good. Further commission discussion? Very good. Next speaker?
Good evening, David Miller of District 5. Wow, it was so many BSOs. Shoot, I want to say that I appreciate BSO. They're doing a good job with that Atlantic and Powerline corridor, and I also want to personally thank them. You know, they're not really here, but they allowed me to utilize their autism wrapped car. I just want to share something with the commission. I had a friend of mine, a little lady, she heard me always say, cultural arts ambassador. But she say, why self-proclaim? So I had to tell her, you know, with the position that I created and also shared with our city, it was a thing that I didn't want nobody from outside the culture to come in the culture and tell me what my title should be. Y'all can't give me a title or take it away. So on that note, we understand that art drives tourism. And I just wanted to remind everyone of my autism event that was at Sample McDougal House, partnered with the Pompano Kappa Foundation. Turned out to be a real good event, which then came out of April into May, and it resulted in me giving a young woman, autism and Down syndrome, some gallery space to show her art at the Sample McDougal House, where I'm the art director. And I think that a lot of times people just go unrecognized and never getting acknowledged for nothing. So yeah, that autism is one of those things that I champion, as well as chess. Maybe I'll get the proclamation, I don't know. But also I want to say that month of June is coming. So I'm currently the Library Friends Group president of the Collier City Jan Moran Library. It's a long name, but Jan Moran, Collier City Learning Library. I have a class that I'm putting together with art again, and we're gonna bring that art to the Juneteenth, citywide Juneteenth. The best one we have is on Apollo Park. Gonna bring that art there. If you all want to see something I've done, you've probably never seen it before, come and say, Dave, that's ugly or good. Please come out to the June 15th, and yeah, that's gonna be very interesting. I'd like to give a shout out to everyone who's involved with Southern Fried. I just said BSO with the autism car. I wanna let everyone know that these people are amazing. When you get to knowing how focused they become, it's a beautiful thing. Collier City has a whole lot of art, okay? Artwork is being driven through Collier City. A lot of people never been to Collier City. And I wanna thank the people that's involved with the Live grant, as they gave me money to do art in Collier City. So yeah, let's protect the original culture that's out there on that northwest side. And I just wanted to make you aware of the June happenings. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your efforts out there, seriously. Next speaker. Just name and address for the record. Sure.
David Hall, 290 Southeast 8th Court. Just wanted to say I had an opportunity this morning. I reached out to Mayor Hedin and Vice Mayor McGee to express my dismay at what happened last night at our beach. It was absolutely shocking and disgraceful that you have people that don't understand how to have a good time come to our city and potentially destroy it and ruin time for families that are out there having a good time. It's wrong to do it any time on our beach or anyone's beach, but especially Memorial Day, when people died, to give you the opportunity to have a day off, to have a nice weekend, to try to remember them, and you act that way, it's unacceptable. Had a good conversation with the vice mayor, and she has a lot of great ideas that BSO could do, as well as the city, as far as implementing changes to people who use the beach, whether they be pavilions or set up tents in an unregulated fashion. I spoke to the mayor about that as well. It's funny, you know, we have great things that have happened in our beach throughout the city, and you're talking about a Waldorf Astoria in Pompano Beach. You're talking about a Ritz-Carlton in Pompano Beach. And for that to have happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, people would have laughed in your face. So we don't need the incidents that happened for a protracted period of time yesterday, from the parking garage to in front of the restaurants to the riot that happened in the tents, doesn't need to happen. So I was talking with a buddy of mine who is funny, some of the Pompano Beach PD guys, original guys, or some of the guys that have been around for a while, he was an original Pompano PD guy, went to BSO, retired as a light colonel, and he was driving back north to see his mom, who lives in one of the buildings close to Atlantic. And he said it's just crazy. You know, Fort Lauderdale, he came through, and he said Fort Lauderdale PD had the beach locked down. They almost had a riot there as well. But Fort Lauderdale was there, locked it down, had everything clamped down quickly, and was able to take care of that. So I know BSO can do that for sure. And he said you don't want to go back to the days of the old wharf in Pompano when you had Deadhead Night and there were drug busts constantly at the wharf and, you know, charged up guys with their shirts off rioting in the parking lot, because that's what Pompano Wharf used to be. We're beyond that, and we need to make sure that we do things appropriately to make sure the city doesn't have that disgraceful display. They want to come from other parts of the county or Miami-Dade because they're cracking down. We certainly come up with some pretty restrictive things to make sure that the people are there, or the people that want to enjoy it, and not just destroy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor?
Vice Mayor?
You know, I just wanted to follow up on that too. Yeah, when I arrived home last night, you know, there were, you know, sirens, and not sirens, just lights and people everywhere. And it was definitely, you know, I reached out to city and BSO, and I have to also have to let BSO know that we got some commendation emails by how well you did handle what happened. But I spoke with the city earlier today, and we're going to be chatting between staff, BSOs, coming up with some parameters, especially for holiday weekends, to try and proactively, you know, discourage that kind of behavior and make sure that everyone is aware that, you know, City of Pompano is not going to sit idly by while people come out and get in fights. And, you know, unfortunately, there was a little fire on the dunes that got put out quickly, thank goodness, but that could have been horrible. And it's just safety and making sure that everyone can have a good time. And so, yeah, we'll be doing a lot of work, hopefully, before 4th of July festivities, and then to continue the work to try and just make it safe and happy for everyone.
Very good. Thank you for that. Next speaker?
Yes, Jackie Moreland, followed by Tondra King, followed by Pat Anderson.
Very good. Just name and address for the record.
Good evening, Jackie Moreland, 1526 Northwest 7th Lane. I'm here to follow up with what I've been speaking to you about, the pictures in the corridor. That's one of the things. And I know, Mr. Harrison, you were not here at the last meeting, and my question then, and the mayor directed me and said that it will be the responsibility of the city manager to see what happens next. And that was my question. Is these pictures out in the hallways temporary, or will there be something more permanent, or is this permanent now that the other pictures have been removed?
So, Ms. Moreland, I believe you've been involved in some of the meetings with the historical folks.
Yes.
So you're aware that they wanted the pictures. They want to take them to the museum, go through them, make them more like what you are requesting. And that will be an ongoing project with the cultural affairs staff.
Okay.
And the historical folks.
Okay. So I'll continue to have that communication with Mr. Ty and the Cultural Arts Department. We had one meeting and it went really well.
I believe you're on a special committee with several other members of the Northwest community, and they will be working with Mr. Jerry Al.
Okay.
And the staff, Pat, over there at the museum.
Okay.
But as far as this building here, this building is not a museum.
Right.
So the walls that you saw, the historical pictures that were up there for a while, they will be showing really cool, neat projects the city is accomplishing, and will be displayed as such, and they'll be changed out periodically.
Okay.
As different projects come to fruition.
Okay. So eventually there'll be a different timeline up, or from the discussions and the meetings that we'll have, it will be other pictures from the city that will be on display in those hallways, or?
Oh, ma'am. no pictures in the hallways.
Okay, so, but those pictures that are there now, those are pictures or whether oil paintings or whatever, but is it going to be art or that will be discussed in those meetings?
There won't be any art discussed in the meetings about the walls
Right.
in the commission chambers.
Right. So the ones that you took down and the ones that you have up now, those are the ones that are going to remain there. It was my
For
question.
the time being,
Okay, for the time being.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you. And I'll continue to meet with Ty as he invites me to those meetings. And it was a very productive meeting, and thank you for that. My other problem that I have, I wanted to address to Mr. Moss. Mr. Moss, I didn't have a chance to address this with you the last time I was here. When I spoke on the pictures and the pictures had been removed, you referred to me as a bully. And I resented that because I am of such a woman that I can articulate my words and that I can say what I need to say without bullying anybody. When you look at the definition of what a bully is, I'm not a bully. I'm not here taking advantage of somebody that is vulnerable. I'm not here intimidating anybody. I'm not here coercing anybody. I'm speaking on the needs that I feel that affect me as a citizen in Pompano Beach, who've been here for 63 years. I own my own home. I pay taxes. And whatever concerns me in this city and concerns me in my community, I'm here to speak just like everyone else. And to be called a bully, and it was posted in the Pelican as well, you saying that, I resent that because I respect you when I come up to this microphone. I respect everybody here. I'm going to say what I need to say as it relates to me as a citizen, my family, my community, but I don't have to bully anybody. I don't have to bully anybody to get my point across, so I wanted to say that to you. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Moss?
Yeah, I think if you review the film very closely, you will see that I referred to bullies, but I named no one. And I think you are making the assumption that I was referring to you, which may say more about you than it does me. And I'm not getting into a tete-a-tete with you. Go back, look at it on the record, look at the film, and you'll see I named no one as bullies.
You didn't name anyone, but I was at the mic, and that was our conversation.
Ms. Moreland, thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, Ms. King? Tundra King?
Okay, she's not here. Okay, next speaker is Pat Anderson.
Very good. Pat Anderson.
Hi, everybody. This is Pat Russell Anderson, and I'm a 30-year resident of a lovely house on Sailfish Canal, and I'm going to be getting married. We set a date. The date is going to be 12/12/24. Mr. Berman. Please make note of that.
Does that mean I'm invited?
You would be delighted with a surprise I'd have for you.
Congratulations.
But I'm going to ask you for one thing. I brought with me the first, it's the second attorney that had a smash that I got to my house. And so I had to sue Qualman for damaging my house. And it was Nemia Schulte, and she wrote up a wonderful story. And I'm bringing it to you to see because there was a smash. And you happen to have been in the first of the 2 cities. There are 50 permits, and you were in the first 10 that all got voided, closed, and ignored. And so that's why you probably didn't know about it. So anyway, what I want you to do for me is to give me clear title insurance for my wedding, birthday, or whatever you want to call it, because my will is to my new husband, okay? My artwork is worth more than my home. This is some of the stuff that I do. This is all plein air. This is all artwork all over the world at my Christmas balls. Please get me clear title insurance, because that house that got sold without clear title insurance, they are responsible for $20 million to rebuild the whole infrastructure in the whole end of cul-de-sac. And that's not fair to Mr. Deemers of Canada. That's all I'm going to ask you. And that's what I'm here for. I'm going to leave you my book so you can look at it, Kervin. And also Nemia Schulte's legal stuff.
Very good. You can just give that to Kervin.
Please get this thing over with. 7 years is enough. Thank you.
Ron Thurston.
Bye.
Evening, sir. Just name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. Ronald Thurston, 951 Northwest 27th Avenue, Pompano. I'm here. I don't get to come here very often, but we hear about I guess a mural that was started at McNair. It's nothing about the mural. It's the fact that whenever it comes to District 5, we're not included in the conversation. And that's the issue that we have. No one told us anything. No one had a meeting. When we knew about it, the lift was out in the parking lot, and I asked the question, what's going on? When I reached out to Parks and Rec, they didn't know what was going on. I reached out to the city manager. The city manager told me he didn't know, he'll look into it. Then he called me back and told me what was going on. I said, Mr. Manager, the problem that we have, nobody said anything to us. Then they say, well, they talked to staff. Staff who works for us did not relate anything about a mural in our neighborhood that they wants to put up. It was a meeting today. The meeting was at 11:30 a.m. today. We all work. Who gets to come to a meeting at 11:30 a.m.? It's done on purpose. Mr. Mayor, all I ask that we sit down and have a discussion. That's all we want. We ask to be included. This is 2024. Just don't shove it down our throat. All we want to do is sit to the table, and we can give you our input on it. Because everybody that throws a football or dribbles a basketball or hits a baseball is not a hero in the black community. And it's resentful for people to even think that. We have heroes, we have lawyers, we have doctors, we have judges, we have principals that come from our neighborhood. Stop thinking that sports is our hero. We do not like it. All we ask to be included in the meeting, and you'll hear the community. You'll hear the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We always try and get the word out to the community.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Moss?
Yeah, I didn't know about it either, which is all right. But I think it is a good idea when it's at all possible to share this information with the community. The unfortunate thing about Collier City is that, as far as I'm concerned, the only organization that really speaks for it, the only organization that has regular meetings that are open to all residents of Collier City is the Collier City Civic Associations. And so it would have been a very good idea if that had been brought to them and presented to them. But on the larger picture, I think, we have a bit of a balkanization in the city in that if the community center in Collier City does not belong to Collier City, The community center in Palmyra does not belong to Palmyra. The Charlotte Berry Center does not belong to Pompano Highlands. All of these buildings belong to all of us. And if people from Collier City want to have meetings in the Skolnick Center, and they do, they're very welcome to do it. So I think the art department in the city is well advised to consult with the community, but the community doesn't dictate what the city does. And so we all have to just realize that we're all one city, and all of these centers are open to anyone and everyone, especially the new Senior Citizens Center. It's not just for the Northwest community, it's for any senior that wants to go there. So it does concern me a little bit that we seem to have this idea that certain community centers belong only to the people who live nearby, and that's not the case. So yes, I think it's always a very good idea to consult with members of the community. And in Collier City, as far as I'm concerned, the only organization that represents it or speaks for it is the Homeowners Association. So I think we just need to understand that we're all in this together, and all of our community associations belong to all of us, are open to all of us, and any one of us can go to any one of them that they wish. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Next speaker?
That concludes audience to be heard, Mayor.
Very good. All right. That takes us up to our consent agenda. Can I get a motion approving items 1 and 2 and 4 through 6?
So moved. Second.
Moved and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Item number 3 is a resolution.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, approving and authorizing the proper city officials to execute an amendment to the Declaration of Voluntary Restrictive Covenants made by Dixie Properties and Investments, LLC, and Upper Pompano Properties and Investments, LLC, for the benefit of the City of Pompano Beach, providing an effective date.
So moved. Second.
Moved and second for discussion. This item was pulled by Commissioner Fournier and Commissioner Moss. Commissioner Fournier.
Thank you, Mayor. So in reviewing the backup on this, it appears that in 2021, this property was rezoned from B3 to B4 with a handful, or I think it was 8 restrictive covenants on it, so or uses that are not allowed. And at the time, it appeared that our Planning and Zoning Board had a slightly different opinion than the Commission. You know, it's been 3 years. We have talked about this Dixie corridor being mixed use. There's residential projects coming there. So I had a couple questions about if we were so intentional back then about taking these uses out, why we think it's okay today. And the first question I actually have is for Ms. Dolan, which is there no requirement or desire for something like this to go to planning and zoning? It's just removal of, I get restrictive covenants, but there's no recommendation from planning and zoning in its backup.
Right, this is a voluntary restriction, so.
Just identify yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jean Dolan, Development Services. Yeah, this is a voluntary restriction that was done by the applicant to make it a little more palatable to staff to support the rezoning. So it doesn't go through the typical P&Z process in reverse. It's just strictly up to the commission to accept or the changes or not, just the way the restriction was written.
But the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board is it still exists.
The Planning and Zoning Board unanimously recommended denial of the rezoning, so it has nothing to do with the restriction.
Understood. So they recommended denial. The commission went forward with it, but with these restrictions on certain uses that were allowed in B4. So fast forward 3 years, and I'm wondering, does staff recommend this? These uses you're comfortable with now relative to everything that's going on in that corridor?
Staff is not making a recommendation on this.
Okay. So we're adding tool repair, manufacturing, distribution, which would add traffic. Have we looked at the impacts there?
Stolen?
Okay.
Like I said, staff is not doing an analysis or making a recommendation on this. It's between the applicant and the commission.
Okay. So for me, the struggle is to make it more palatable. 3 years ago, some of these uses were removed. And so to just kind of sit here without any recommendations or analysis 3 years later and say, okay, we'll just undo what was done then. it's a little tough for me, especially given how much mixed use and residential and what we talk about that corridor becoming. So that's it. Thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Moss?
Yeah, I've got some questions for Ms. Dolan, too. The original change in zoning happened when I was not on the commission, neither was Commissioner Fournier. So I looked at the backup, and I would just like to go through what seems to be the progress of this project from beginning to end, because I've had some questions from my constituents about it that I was not able to answer, and I think some of them are watching tonight on television. So it seems to me that during that period of time when I was not on the commission, the applicant came and requested a zoning change from B3 to B4.
I apologize.
That was rejected by planning and zoning, but it came to the commission, and I'm assuming, I have no idea what the applicant was planning, but from reading comments from the minutes of the commission, it seemed as though the commissioners were very pleased with the aesthetics of the project, that it was going to be a very attractive building, and it was going to be beautifully landscaped, and so in spite of the fact that P&Z said no, they thought that it was worthwhile to override them. No?
Let me clarify. The building was never going to change. They were just trying to get more uses to widen their scope of people that could rent.
So the building is an existing building?
Right, and what the commission liked at the time was they had finally landscaped their frontage, which was part of an agreement they had through a court enforcement case that took us months and months and months to get them to actually do. And once they did it, the frontage looked much nicer, and that was really why the commission approved the request.
Okay, so apparently the building is much more attractive and palatable to, well,
The building has not changed. It's still
the
a
landscaping has-
one-story, it's built for like contractor yards. It's an office door and a roll-up door, one story, very small L-shaped building. So it was never going to change. The building itself was never going to change because of this rezoning.
okay. Well, in the backup there, I was not aware of the fact that the building is an existing building. There were no photographs or pictures of it, so I'm not familiar with the building. So now we impose these restrictions, rather the applicant imposed restrictions, and now they're coming back to change, to remove some of those restrictions. Have they given an explanation as to why they want to remove them?
Right, they want to remove them so they can have more possibilities of renting the spaces out. And the applicant, Tom Johnson, is representing the applicant, and he's the best one to explain what their objectives are.
We'll
Okay.
get there.
I'm very happy to listen to what he has to say. Mr. Johnson told me that he discussed this with me, and I have to admit, I don't remember it at all, but I do forget things. But it seems to me that I would have remembered it. So I'd like to understand why we're considering allowing some previously prohibited uses to go forward from this point on. It seems to me that, again, I wasn't here, but I would have taken very seriously the comments and recommendations of planning and zoning, because we're trying to make an effort to make Dixie Highway a bit more attractive. So from what I read, it seems to me as though the commission thought that what was being done was very, very attractive and worthwhile. So if Mr. Johnson could explain to me why you're requesting this.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Tom Johnston, 633 East Atlantic Boulevard in the beautiful city of Pompano Beach. I've represented this landowner. It's a partnership of 3 individuals who've lived in Broward County almost all their lives, and they invested in this property. This used to be the Driscoll's Towing Yard, and for more than 30 years, it had between 11 and 14 wreckers on it. The Driscoll family had the city contract for towing. The uses that went on at that point were abhorrent to the residential neighbors behind there, in my opinion, okay? They ran this 7 days a week because they had to tow 7 days a week. They had to make tows at 3 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock at night. There were huge trucks, and there were between 30 and 100 derelict vehicles there from time to time until they went to the insurance companies. My client bought it from an auction when the Driscoll family left Pompano. And the property was horrible, okay? It was horrible. It was a disgrace. It's 3 contiguous acres. It's a nice piece of property. It's right across from the blimp base. So its neighbor across the street is the city waterworks and the blimp base and the FEC railroad tracks, okay? On the north side is a paint and body shop. It's been there for years and years and years. On the south side was a trust company that went out many years ago. In fact, that property has just recently been cleaned through good efforts of the city's code compliance. And that property went up within the last year for auction and was sold. I don't know what the development intent of it is, but it was sold to people who want to take that 1.5 acres and do something with it. My client was interested in it. My client bid on it, but he was unsuccessful. So my client purchased this property along with his partners, and they've invested more than $3 million at this point in the property. On the south side of the property are individual garage bays, which have a wall that's over 12 feet high, which gives plenty of screening from Dixie Highway. On the north side, there is a wall that sweeps, it's over 6 feet tall, and it sweeps to the west, and then it goes all the way along the west side of the property. It serves as a marvelous buffer. Now, when we started the rezoning effort, and it was different staff at the time, but I'm not criticizing staff, staff asked us to use one zoning vehicle. So we did that, and we worked on it for 18 months, only to file it and have staff say, no, 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 we don't want you to go that way. Don't use that effort, okay? We want you to go a different way, okay? So we went after a different zoning theory, okay? And we prepared another application. That one took 14 months because we went through the various protocols that the city has, and we got up to making the presentation to the Planning and Zoning Board, and they said, no, we want you to go a different way. And so I said, pray tell, what way do you want us to go? Because when I looked at the property, I wanted to go to a simple B3 to B4 zoning. That made more sense. That was the direct approach. Finally, our wonderful staff, and by the way, our staff in our city is never wrong, okay? This is my 55th year addressing a city commission, okay? And in all those years, the staff of the city of Pompano Beach has never been wrong. Sometimes it might be just a little scotch from being over the top right, but they're never wrong. And I always enjoy staff, and you've never heard me in 55 years ever criticize staff. But in any event, we prepared an application for B4. Through the B4 process, there were several uses connected with this 3-acre parcel. By the way, it has a wall in front separating the property from Dixie Highway. And so we got together with planners and architects. We got together with landscape companies. We had meeting after meeting after meeting with your urban forester. He's the best around, Wade is, okay? I deal in other cities, and he's just over the top good, okay? And he and his staff, and we went through iteration of the architectural, we had to have an architectural planner, and we came back, we finally all agreed on all the parameters. So the front wall was to be taken down, and it has been at this point. The new cast wall has been put in within the last 2 months. They're going to be over $200,000. The clients spent more than $250,000 on landscaping at this point. I have been going up to the property no less than once a month and inspecting the progress up there. The property is going to be up to the highest level we have. It's going to be up to SEPTED, which is the qualification of having the property be safe and sound at night, have the proper lighting. We don't want to put too many lumens on our neighbors. We want the right lighting in case they have to come in and fight a fire or have a police action there late at night. We've had a continuous tenant, which is the Avis budget rent-a-car people, okay? But we've had other individuals that have had businesses in the buildings inside the courtyard. Now, what's happened is there was a building there that's been totally remodeled. Those bays are being in the process of remodel. There was another building, because I'm glad, Commissioner Moss, you mentioned the building, which has been demolished and removed, okay? That was part of the plan. This property had a complete and unique site plan. It still has active building permits, and it has now new paving for the parking lot. That's all installed. All of the underground piping for the electric is in, and it's stubbed up. The light poles have been delivered to the property. The landscape has gone in the front, but it's being redone because the wall's being replaced. So the client has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on the property, and we're nearing completion of it. Last summer, the client approached me and said, Tom, we would like a couple of the restrictions released. And I thought to myself, goodness, don't make me go back before the city commission. Although this wasn't a contested rezoning, and by the way, Commissioner Moss, you talked about the decision of the Planning Board. They never make a decision on these matters. They have no decision authority. They only recommend to the city commission. But their recommendation was 7-0 to the city commission not to grant the B4 and to let the property be B3. But we were able to make presentations before the city commission, and we missed you and missed your input, but we're glad you're back on the dais, and we ended up being persuasive, and the city commission agreed in 2 separate votes, and we had 9 voluntary restrictions. So the client said, Tom, we need some relief from those because there are a couple of these things where we've been approached for long-term tenancies, and we need to make the property more commercially feasible. And so I discussed it with staff. I met with Scott Reale in September, and to publicly disclose our meetings, I met with Commissioner McGee on this matter on the 24th of October. I met with Commissioner Moss on the 25th of October, 2023. I met with Ms. Fournier on the 26th, and we discussed this because I solicited which one of the 9s could you live with and which could you live without. And so I solicited your opinion, and I made copious notes because I go back to the office and I do a contemporaneous letter from the meetings I have with you all to the clients. The clients are paying good money, and I want them to know your opinions because that helps them guide me as their lawyer and their advocate. We met with Commissioner Eaton on the 27th. In fact, we had a very long meeting that day. We talked about many matters besides this property, as you'll recall. It was almost 3 hours in length. We met with Commissioner Perkins on the 30th of October and had an extensive meeting on this property. And finally, the mayor, we met on November 1st. I think, Rex, you gave me the privilege of coming to my office rather than having lunch with me, okay, because your schedule was tight. But we talked about these, and I went over, Commissioner Fournier talked about 8, but there were 9 restrictions. And we don't want sports shooting. That can remain forever, okay? We don't want auto paint and body because that's right next door. In fact, it shouldn't be there, okay? But it's been there so long, it's grandfathered in. We don't want auto record service because it was auto record service there, and B4 allows that, but we don't want it. It was there for more than 30 years. We don't want self-storage and mini warehouse. I asked several of you when you said to me, Tom, we don't need any more of that Pompano. We have more than enough self-storage and mini warehouse because that, although you build a building, that doesn't build jobs and it doesn't help our overall economy. And having lived in Pompano, well, next month, almost 80 years, I've been a member of the business community, and my clients have been for over half a century. And we want to continue to support the economics of this community, and you have to have the job base. And mini storage, several of you said, Tom, doesn't contribute anything, and I couldn't agree more. And finally, pawn shops. Pawn shops are anathema to society. You talk to the sheriff's department, and they will say, within a 4 or 5 block radius of a pawn shop, when they're missing bicycles and missing lawnmowers, they can go the next day and find them at the pawn shop, okay? And we don't need any more pawn shops. Pawn shops are an old way of banking that have come over the ages, and I know there's some pawn shops, but we have some seedy, very seedy pawn shops in Pompano as well, and I could point those out, but we don't need any here. So the owner says no, but the owner said, look, we would like to have a tool repair shop, and those would be to repair tools inside a building, not outside. Manufacturing a slide assembly, he says, Tom, I've been approached by a company that wants to sew cushions for boats. And that's identified under our zoning code as assembly or light fabrication. And so that's why we're asking for that one. Warehouse and distribution, several of you said you don't want many warehouses, but we could really stand to have more good warehousing. Okay. I don't know that anybody's going to come to this site and build warehousing, but it's an opportunity. And finally, to have a dry cleaning establishment there where people can come and bring their clothes and pick their clothes up. I don't know that one of these businesses is going to be there, but we have 13 business opportunities currently with the buildings that are there on the site. So I wanted to disclose that I've met with you all for the public, and of course, I'm very meticulous. I file my lobbying papers, and those are of record, so I know the dates. We went back and looked them up when that came to question. And I would very much like to have your support. This is not a major thing. We're not asking for rezoning. We're not asking for a change of land use this evening. We're not asking for anything, and I had quite a good debate with my colleague here, who I dearly love, and remember the first day he came to the city, and I worked well with Mr. Berman, and we have the greatest respect for each other. We don't always agree, but we have the greatest respect for each other. And Mr. Berman thought that this might constitute a rezoning, this action. And so we ferreted that out with the head of development services and with several of our principal planners, and everyone came to the conclusion that no, this is not a rezoning. We're not asking for the property to change to another zoning category. We're just asking for the release. Yoke-Leon zoning says a release of restrictive covenants. So of the 9, we're only asking for 4. And we hope that that will meet your favor this evening. The client would not spend the money and ask for it if there wasn't a good sound economic reason behind it. It's going to give the property more flexibility as a B4.
Very good. Commissioner Moss.
And that's the short version. If you'd like the long version, I'm prepared to stay longer tonight.
Yeah,
That was sufficient.
Commissioner Moss, that was your question.
Yes. Well, then, under Exhibit B, you've got these 9. If you don't want sports shooting or an auto wrecker service,
No.
why is it there?
It's restricted. There are 5 restricted. Take a look at the restrictions, Commissioner Moss.
This is Exhibit B?
Exhibit B has the ones that are going to remain restricted, and I have the signed amendment right here in my hands, and over in the preamble, which is adopted, it says released and eliminated from restriction: laundry, tool repair, manufacturing, assembly, and warehouse distribution. Restricted are sports shooting,
Yes, Mr.
auto
Johnson.
paint and body.
I believe he's just on the wrong page in his backup.
All
there.
right.
Yes,
Okay,
he
I'm
was on
sorry.
the original list, and he's looking for the new
I tried to make it as simple as I could.
Well,
Something
okay, so
simple becomes
I got it. You want 4 released. Okay, thanks.
Just 4 of the 9 released.
Great.
Because we want a wonderful piece of property. We want it to contribute to our tax base. As you know, our tax base is everything in running a city. I graduated in the first class from FAU, which we lovingly called Find Another University back then, and got a degree in business and public administration. And I remember I took a course in municipal finance administration, and we had a fellow by the name of Ken Burrows, who was our finance director of the city back at that time. And I came and talked to Ken, and he helped me with my senior paper. You had to do a senior paper on municipal finance. And I really opened my eyes to what it takes to run a city. It takes good people, but it also takes finance. And our finance base is so wonderful in this city. We have such little debt compared to the overall net value of all the assets in this city. This city has been managed beautifully. I go back to a whole list of city managers I could name. But one of them, a guy who was real cheap, but taught me some lessons too as a younger lawyer, was Bill Hargett. Bill was very good with a nickel. We used to say his nickels had no buffaloes because he squeezed them so hard. But I know our current city manager is excellent with funding, and you guys do a great job. You start on the budget in the spring. Most people don't know that. And you work up because you have to send that number out in July, even though it gets voted on in September. But financing is everything for the city, and this city is well-managed, well-oiled machine, and the retirement systems are well-oiled and well-supported by finance, and we have a great base, and we need to add to it. And so every time I have a chance to help a client with a property, to build wealth, this is my goal, okay?
Mayor?
Thank you. Commissioner Moss still has the floor.
Just one last comment. I mean, I'm concerned about the precedent that this could set. I mean, going down the road, people come in and they make promises, and then they come around and shortly thereafter and say, oops, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean to make that promise. So that does concern me as well. But I thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, this has happened, Commissioner Moss,
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
many times over the years.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you. I've got Commissioner Segerson and then back to Commissioner Fournier.
Thank you, Mayor. So yes, I recall this. You were not on the dais at the time, Commissioner Moss. What I want you to know particularly about this property, it's atypical. It is basically surrounded by a wall. The building that's fronts Dixie Highway essentially connects to the side building. So it's really like a big wall. There's one way in, and that these bays are not seen from Dixie Highway. So you sort of go in, if you can see the site. There's two parcels, but whether they're unified, but double owned. You enter the property through a driveway, and then all of those bays are on the south end. The back of the building is like surrounding. It goes all the way over this big wall, so you cannot see any of the things going on the inside. It's not, and I agree. I mean, if this was right facing Dixie Highway, and those are things that we frown against, but this is an existing building that the bays cannot be seen from the street. So.
And I consulted several times.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
I'm sorry.
Trust me, I will give you an opportunity
All right,
to make any additional points you need to, but in response to questions, of course. But
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, and at the time as well, there was a major landscaping endeavor. It is, I drive by it many times a week. Major landscaping effort, repaving the lot, landscaping in the parking area, and other improvements that were made at the time, landscaping being especially prevalent on the Dixie Highway site. Yeah, that's what I recall. And as far as the restrictive covenants, to my knowledge, and maybe Mr. Berman can tell me if I'm wrong, they run with the land, correct?
Mr. Berman?
Oh, I would never tell you you were wrong. First of
all. Oh, no.
That's why I've been around a while. Job security.
Okay.
These covenants run with the land. They're voluntary. They were not part of the rezoning. They were voluntarily imposed. If they were part of the rezoning, it could be construed as contract zoning. But he voluntarily put them. Now they want to voluntarily change what they put on there now to increase for the reasons you heard. So it does run with the land, though.
Right, okay, so, but the noxious uses that are generally associated with B4s have been X'd out and can never be in there because they run with the land, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Fournier.
Thank you. I drove through the property today. I drive by it occasionally, but I wanted to actually drive through. And I will say that it looks really nice. There has been a lot of progress made there. So I wanted to see its proximity to other parcels that we're talking about doing residential projects on. And I also appreciate wanting to attract tenants because you obviously need to have a successful business. But I do, I think talking about sewing boat cushions, that is one use that would, but it's a pretty light use. There are, if we say manufacturing, even though it's light, there are probably heavier uses there or other uses that aren't anticipated that could create additional traffic in that area without having studied that. So I personally think the property looks really nice and that this is maybe just a little bit of a step backwards for me. So thank you.
Very good. Okay. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, no, I remember this property coming up, and a lot of the concern was about the aesthetic and the fence or the wall and the foliage and everything. And I personally, I don't remember having an issue with these 4 uses at the time, even because again they were more internal, and the earth underneath these buildings has already had years of tow yard and auto rentals. I do share Commissioner Moss's concern about precedent setting, that when this is definitely not the first or only project that's come to us and promised, all these sorts of things and then comes back and changes things. That being said, I also have heard a lot from the commercial leasing community, where I would love to see us, even as a city, find a process in which and I'm going to start talking more broader, but should a property have suitable tenant that the city might actually like better, but our zoning and use table hasn't been updated to reflect the current market wants or needs, that there is a process that they could go through, because right now it's kind of a chicken and egg situation where you can't apply for a zoning exception unless you have a signed LOI or a tenant in your pocket, and most good tenants don't want to get that far along unless they know that the property is going to go ahead and be allowed. So it's a business jumping thing that I'd love to see our legal staff and building department and everyone get their heads together to figure out if there's a process that we could form, that if your client had specifically a boat cushion manufacturer, you could come to us and say, hey, could we get this done here without a whole 14-month, 18-month process? Because obviously any lease would die in that period of time. So yeah, it's definitely a harder one, just because again, you don't want to set the precedent that voluntary, yes, but voluntary got the rezoning that they wanted, so it was the quid pro quo to that. So yeah, so we're back and forth. Again, these specific uses, I don't even think I had issue at the first time. I think you kept the real solid one, the ones that everyone was sweating over, restricted. So yeah, no, that's sort of what I just want to talk to the commission about, because it seems apropos at this point, is that maybe we really do need to look at internally our process to figure out how to, as we evolve and are changing, honestly, as rapidly as we are, that we have something in place to allow these types of, I don't want to say exceptions, but like uses when it's in the best interest of us and our business residents. So that's all I have for now.
Very good. I think Mr. Berman would probably agree that there was no quid pro quo with these voluntary restrictions that were imposed or were proffered by the client originally, correct?
It was none.
No, it was not. No, of course
It
not.
was rezoned, and as based on the rezoning application and whether it qualified for rezoning, the voluntary restrictions were placed on by the applicant.
Correct.
In
Very
fact,
good.
Mr. Mayor, the document was delivered days later after the commission action.
Very good.
So we don't have contract zoning.
Correct.
And if I could address Ms. McGee, this is not a precedent that's being set tonight if you approve this. We've done this before over the years. Myself, and I could name you half a dozen other lawyers that have appeared before the City Commission over the years to modify and amend and relieve or add to the restrictions. But this is something that is not a zoning process per se, because we're not asking for rezoning tonight. This is a separate matter, and it will go on forever. Okay, there'll be people that will want to make changes.
Now, Mr. Johnson, would you like to wait until the end of public comment to make any additional remarks you'd like to?
Well, I would just like to disclose that I spoke with the Commissioner Perkins today. It's her district, District 4, and she expressed her thoughts to me. Maybe you'd like to express your thoughts on this, if you're cool with
Mr.
it.
Johnson, in other words, you're going to finish your presentation now.
Well, no, I'm not going to finish my presentation. I'll wait.
Okay, then you can wait until after.
Okay, be happy to, sir.
Okay, that's very good. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public at this time? Very good. Public input closed. Further input from Mr. Johnson, who is also a member of the public on this matter, but that represents the applicant. Go ahead.
I've lost some weight. I'm not as large a member as I used to be. But I spoke to Commissioner Perkins, and I think she's cool with this. This is her district. These are her constituents.
Well,
maybe she can make.
We will have commission comments in just a moment.
Okay. Well, thank you. Then I will thank you very much for your consideration. It was a lot longer than I thought this evening. I didn't know whether this was going to come as an ordinance. And here again, Mr. Berman and I discussed it, and we discussed it, and we discussed it, and we don't need an ordinance. We can do it just a resolution approving the modification of a contractual document. And yes, it will be recorded on the public records, and I have my client's signed copy here to deliver. I'll probably wait and deliver it, if you pass it, deliver it tomorrow, because I have another meeting with Mr. Reale, who couldn't be here on a separate matter, and hand it over to him. But anyway, we thank you very much. Thank you for your patience and your understanding always.
Thank you, Mr. Johnston.
Okay, Mayor.
Commissioner Perkins.
Yes, I did speak to Attorney Johnston today. We've been speaking and talking about this for, I guess, a year, a little over a year, I guess you could say. So yes, at the beginning, I was very concerned about the location. I know this was the old location of, I think it was Driscoll Towing Company. So I was concerned, and I did ask that they speak to the residents that are directly behind that, which is Kendall Green, which they did. And I was concerned about the traffic on Dixie. So I would say every 2 to 3 months I'm there on the property, just to make sure everything is going as planned. I'm concerned about the landscaping, so I've been speaking with the attorney, and pretty much everything I've been asking for has been met. So I'm just keeping my eyes and ears on it to make sure everything is being done properly and correct. So, yeah, thank you.
Very good. I got a couple of things. Ms. Dolan? Now, self-storage is what's there right now, isn't it? I mean, you've got warehouse doors.
It looks like contractor yard. That looks like what it was built for. Like, it's got a little office and then a roll-up door next to it. I mean, you can see it on BCPA if you want to see what the building looks like.
So it's
but it's not self-storage.
It's not classified as self-storage. That's just warehousing.
Right.
Okay. Also, what the wall that surrounds the property? Who's responsible for maintenance of that wall?
The owner.
On both sides?
Yes. Everything
Okay.
on their property is their responsibility.
Gotcha, okay. Now you mentioned at one point in time that they made some modifications to the front of the property as a result of a code enforcement action?
Well, they had an agreement that was separate from any zoning process, and we finally got it enforced by denying BTRs in there until they finally did it. So that's what instigated them to actually get it done. And it looked lovely. So the commission was very supportive of that at the time of the rezoning, and that had a big effect on their decision.
And the modifications that are currently being made by the property owner in there, are those, why are they doing that? Just, was that part of the rezoning process, or are they just doing it because they want to make the place look better? What?
On the interior, they had to bring that site more up to code. It was all dirt. There was no pavement in there at all, so they had a code enforcement action against, the whole site. Right.
Okay. Excuse me. So is there still code enforcement action lodged against this property?
I'll have to take Tom's word for it. He says no. I haven't looked into that.
Perhaps Mr. Sotolongo could come forward, or somebody who can answer the question. And I appreciate Mr. Johnson being here.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Marius Tolongo, Co-Compliance Supervisor. There are currently no code cases open on this property.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Sure.
there are various issues with that wall that surrounds the property that it's pretty ugly. Is it supposed to be painted?
That is part of the plan, that is part of the permit, landscaping and paint.
I see. So they're not in violation of code enforcement because they've got a permit that says they're going to paint the wall?
Correct, and I've been receiving updates from Mr. Johnston.
And how long has this process been going on with the painting of the wall or the future painting of the wall and the improvements? Specifically, I'm thinking about, and I appreciate where Commissioner Perkins was talking about, but I looked at the north portion there also, and there's a wall on the north side of the property that abuts the residential properties, and there is a strip out there where they're putting in sprinklers. And it's just, I mean, right now it's just open trenches with some pipes sticking out. And I assume that's part of our permitting process. And how long has that been going on? Do you know?
I believe close to a year, if not a little bit more.
Close to a year it's been like that?
Sir.
Gotcha.
Mayor, if I might
Yes, Mr. Johnson.
answer your question.
Yes,
Yeah, we have open building permits. We're being currently monitored by the building department. There are built-in deadlines. There was a comprehensive site plan that was approved by the city. In fact, it had several iterations. And the last one has to be completed every jot and tittle, okay? It's a very fine process. And everything on the site plan is just not one sheet. It's sheet after sheet after sheet after underground electrical, underground plumbing, wastewater, stormwater, parking, paving. The package is about this big, and it was approved by the Planning and Zoning Board. And it is in the hands of the building department. And there are multiple contractors that have licenses, that have qualified, that are working on the job. I want to introduce Ms. Gina Yehuda, who's been the project supervisor for my client. She's here. She's come down from her office in Boynton Beach. She's the vice president of my client's company, and she is charged with finishing this project out. But this is a multi-million endeavor. Just 2 months ago, the front wall, a portion of it was taken down because it was always supposed to be taken down. And it was finally got to the point where they could take it down. They put in a new foundation, and they brought in a lattice work, pre-poured, precast wall to put in the front. That is not painted yet. The last thing that will happen to that property is the overall painting, okay? But we have a Fortune 500 company that's there in Budget and Avis, and they're going to want the facility to be first class, okay? They have an office over on Federal Highway, and this property serves as an injunction to that. So they have a sales department over on Federal Highway. I believe it's in about the 1300 block of North Federal, okay, on the east side. And this property is where the trucks and the other vehicles are stored outside, and they come and go frequently. But this facility has hours of operation. It's being operated better than that property has ever been treated in its natural life. I remember in 1956 when I had a paper route, and I went up Dixie Highway, and I remembered the property back then. So it looked something like it was horrible. But the client is spending these hundreds of thousands of dollars, I think over $3 million at this point, and would like to finish the project and would like to have it be first class for the city, okay?
Very good, and I appreciate that. Thank you. But my concern is that this matter was before us last in 2021, and here we are in 2024, and we're being asked to approve loosening some restrictions, and so far, millions of dollars have been spent, or hundreds of thousands of dollars in landscaping, and when I was last there, I mean, I see there's a few trees, and a few of them are dead, actually, on the inside perimeter, and I see on the residence side of the wall, I see where the wall is not maintained. It's pretty ugly, and I see that there's trenches with pipes sticking out of them, where the residents who live along there, they've got to deal with this, and you know, and quite honestly, I mean, I think we have been fairly patient in this matter. We went down this road, we rezoned to B4 against the the recommendation of planning and zoning at that point in time to hopefully give some relief. And so far, it hasn't really resulted in a whole lot for the city of Pompano Beach and the folks that live around that. And, you know, I would like to find out from the building department where we're at as far as permits and timelines and all that. You know, but honestly, excuse me, honestly, right now, I'm not real friendly to release any restrictions, but I would be happy to make a motion to table this until our next meeting to get that information from the building department. Because yeah, I'd like to know what has happened since 2021, when this matter was actually dealt with. But I won't make that motion yet. But further commission discussion.
Yes, Mayor.
Commissioner Perkins.
Yeah, I've asked some of the same questions that you've asked, but I've been told that there's several open permits out there. I did question the wall that you're referring about, so I just kind of left it be. If they were open, I didn't know any timelines. But yes, I have asked a lot of those questions, so I just I'm at a standstill until I can hear back or know when the building department is going to approve or not approve whatever they're doing.
Right.
So that's what
Mr. Mayor, you make a good point, and the applicant would like to join you to table it until the next city commission meeting so that you could get all the data you need from the building department and the planning department and any other of the city resources.
I assumed it as much. Any further commission discussion, questions at this point in time? Commissioner Segerson-Eaton?
Well, I do see your point. I mean, I think it's worthwhile to get to find out the details of why it's taken so long to get the property approved to the level that was promised. Dixie Highway is a very important corridor for our city. It has long been unsightly, and not we're getting it beautified, but eventually all the way up. And so honestly, that's kind of how I feel. Just brought to my attention that it's been that long and that there's not the progress we want to see. I mean, I see your point, Mayor. I wouldn't mind. I would feel more comfortable with a little bit of leeway, a little bit of time to be able to find out where we are with the outstanding permits, how long it's been. I would feel more comfortable with that. Is 2 weeks, and then
Fine.
2 weeks is
Two weeks is not significant in the life of this project.
okay. I'd second that motion that you made, Mayor.
Well, I hadn't quite made it yet, but
I thought you
I
did.
will make the motion that we postpone this item until the meeting of June the 11th. So that'd be the motion. So a second would be in order. So you second that?
Yes.
Okay.
And this way I can prepare a lot longer presentation.
That's completely up to you.
I want to give you all the facts and be very thorough, Mayor.
Absolutely.
You know my reputation.
Absolutely.
No, I'm just tongue in cheek. I'll make it as short as I can.
Understood. Mr. Harrison, do you have everything you need on your end? Okay, very good. So it's been moved and seconded to postpone this until June the 11th. Let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
No.
Commissioner Segerson-Eaton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Harden.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. See you on the 11th.
Very good. That takes us up to our regular agenda. Item 7 is a resolution.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, allocating 1.1 acres of non-residential flexibility to allow a commercial use in a residential land use category on property located north of and contiguous to 2201 West Atlantic Boulevard, providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and second for discussion. Good evening, Ms. Dolan.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission, Jean Dolan, Development Services. So the next three items, 7, 8, and 9, are all related, and they're all about the fiber-built property, which is the design center there on Atlantic Boulevard at 2201 West Atlantic Boulevard, right next to the post office. See the 7 lots marked to the north, so all these 3 applications are related to those 7 once residential lots, which have been purchased by the owner of that property to the south. So the first step is the commercial flex application. So the applicant, 2201 LLC, is requesting commercial flexibility for the 6 lots north of and contiguous to 2201 West Atlantic Boulevard, an existing commercial development that was allocated commercial flexibility back in 1984. The underlying land use of all the 6 lots is low-medium residential. The allocation of commercial flexibility will allow a commercial use in the low-medium 10 land use designation, and a concurrent rezoning to B3, which is coming next, will allow it to be developed as an additional building associated with the design center at 2201 West Atlantic Boulevard. The city has 272.64 acres of commercial flexibility available, and this is only asking for 1.1 acres, so we do have plenty of commercial flex to accommodate the request. Given the history of the commercial flex on this property and the difficulty developing the 6 residential lots as anything other than part of the 2201 property due to access constraints, this is a reasonable approach to developing this area. The Planning and Zoning Board unanimously recommended approval of this commercial flex request, and staff recommends approval. And both the staff and the applicant are available if you have any questions.
Very good, thank you. Does the applicant wish to make any presentation at this time? Very good. Questions? This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion, questions, concerns? Commissioner Fournier.
Thank you, Mayor. So on my drive today, the real purpose of it was to actually go take a look at this property. We're only as good as the worst parts of our city, and this property in the back is not maintained. I actually called code compliance and asked if there's a case open on this one, wondering if we're giving things away like rezonings to properties that have code cases. And I think the answer was no, there's not, but I'm surprised there's not, because I've saw everything under the sun back there. There's garbage, underwear, shoes, clothing, bags of trash strewn out, and I understand the problem. I understand that you're probably doing what you can, and I also do believe that this is the right answer for these properties, so on all 3 of these items, but it can't look like that. It cannot look like that back there, because those are residential homes, and this is their backyard or front yard. I mean, the access is strange there, so it's hard to describe what's going on, but this just can't be, from my perspective. So I will support this, but it's got to look better, and I know that the intent of this project is to develop it, and I'm sure that it will be the most modern septed and you know, the perfect design to eliminate these issues going forward, and that's not set up that way right now. But in the meantime, I really hope we can do something about this. Thank you.
Very good. Got Commissioner Perkins, then Commissioner Moss.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Were the residents behind this project, were they contacted, the residential homes? And the church right there on 23rd?
Everyone within 500 feet was mailed notice of the flex and the rezoning. Also, the abandonment, everybody who touches the properties to the north were also noticed about the abandonment.
Now, behind the building, is there a road there that divide the building and those houses? So it was just the building be right there? Is there going to be a wall there?
There will be an 8-foot wall on a 10-foot wide buffer with landscaping on both sides on the north.
Okay, so is this going to be a one-story building? Yes?
Yes, it's a one-story warehouse. Well, it's a one-story extension of that commercial building.
Okay, so what about the traffic? Are we expecting like heavy-duty trucks to go in and out?
They have site plan restrictions that don't allow you to do a right out. So it's a limited, everybody has to go back towards Atlantic. They come off Atlantic, they go back towards Atlantic. There's an actual diverter at their driveway that forces that traffic pattern.
Okay. Okay, that's it for now. I have a few more questions, but I'll let everybody else speak. Go ahead.
Okay, Commissioner Moss.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Commissioner Fournier say. I mean, I'm very familiar with this this particular area, and it is a mess. It's also a campground for homeless people. And so maybe between now and second reading, maybe you can go and clean it up, because it's very bad. She's right.
Very good. Do you know, Ms. Dolan, how did this situation arise where those lots are, I mean, they're like unusable?
They are. When this commercial flex was originally given in 1984, it was actually unincorporated at the time.
Oh.
So they really should have required 2201 to give them a road on the south, because it was never, otherwise it would have been a double frontage lot for the residential to the north, which we never do on purpose. So I think when the county made the choice that they made at the time, they didn't really look up and see that there was more to it than already had given. It was an interesting research project, yeah.
Gotcha.
Tom could have told us all about it.
We've got much better staff than county. At least than county back then. County has good
A lot of
staff now.
strange stuff went on.
Very good. Further commission discussion, questions, concerns? Commissioner Perkins, yeah,
Just
go ahead.
one other question.
Sure.
The lighting is what I'm concerned about for the residents in that area. I know this is an area that we've had problems with, homeless in that area, and a lot of trash being on that property. But I want to know about the lighting situation. And I wanted to know if this business is going to be open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, or after 5.
The applicant can speak to the business model, but the lighting is controlled by our zoning code. Our photometric plans don't require any spill off of light off the property. So that is handled through the site planning process. But the applicant can speak to their business hours and that sort of thing.
Very good. Just identify yourselves for the record, please.
Yeah, Paul Knapp. I'm the owner of 2201 West Atlantic Boulevard.
Joshua Pinsky Law Firm, attorney for 2201.
Very good.
Yeah, so the building, what I had planned to do is to go ahead and build the same single-story building, warehouse that we have there with a design in front. And as far as the trash, I remove it constantly. And we have a young lady that has her business on that street with some people, and I've told the cops about it, showed a video of them, picking her up and dropping her off and what have you. So I will do more than whatever you want me to do to clean it up, but it's consistent. I could give you video cameras of people dumping. I've given license plates to the cops. We haven't been able to take care of it. So I've owned it for 2.5 years. I've really cleaned it up from what it was. So
what are your hours of operation?
it's Monday through Friday, and no, it's 7 days a week, because we do have the commercial, furniture store, and then, we have the wallpaper company, so it's a design center, but we are closed after 5 or 6. Nobody's there late.
Okay, will you have security, night security?
I don't have security now, but I probably, we've cleaned it up so we don't have the problem. They're stealing batteries out of the back. They're, sleeping, underneath the things. I mean, it's really, once I can get it a construction site and get some fencing, that's going to really help the area. And that's what I need. I need your help to help the area.
So if this is approved, when will you start breaking ground for this particular land?
I have been working on it for about a year, and so I haven't made those plans yet. I've been told it's going to be another 3 or 4 months, but as soon as it's done, approved, then I'll make those decisions. I want to do it right away. I mean, I'll break ground right away, get the fence put up, make a construction site, but as far as some of the other things that I need to do, I want it to be done as quick as possible. I've been working on it.
I just, just to know that, if the homeless is hanging out there or laying or sleeping there now, they're not pretty much going to go away. And that's why I asked, did you have security and secure lighting?
So what I did is the homeless were sleeping right on the side where the post office is. They
Yes.
would sleep there all the time. They had the hedges,
Yes.
and there was a sidewalk and a cover. So I put a ring camera up there, and as soon as somebody came in, I would be talking to them. I'd say, leave, I'm gonna call the cops. The police, they went ahead and told me to call 911, let them know if anybody's coming. This is a place of business. So when I first got there, it was, they had tents up there. They have tents in the back on a regular basis. I go back and I take them out. And I do everything I can. I did put some temporary fence up there,
to go ahead because somebody came and dumped a whole thing of
Right.
lawn debris.
Yeah.
So I brought a dumpster, and I put the dumpster next to it. Well, before the next day, I could go ahead and put the stuff in, somebody had dumped in the dumpster.
Yeah. Well, the reason I
So,
asked you about
I mean,
the,
it's really not a great
So I
area.
asked
I
you
think
about
I
the,
can make it a lot better.
the lighting and the security is because the homeless has been sleeping there for a while.
Yes,
And they're just not gonna go away because you building, they'll just sleep around it if they possibly can. But this is one of their locations where they
is.
really have been there for a while.
yeah.
So,
And I've worked, like I said, put the Ring camera, and they have moved. And so they're still gonna be in the area, and I understand that. But, you know, we have a business, and it's flourishing. I mean, business is good over there with it. We have a wallpaper company that has all the designers from Pompano all the way to Miami that's coming in, and they're on TV. It's a really good business, you know, fiber built. And the Lux Outdoor, we have all the patio furniture and the umbrellas, and we want everybody to shop there. So, but we've made that a lot better because it was really hurting before I bought the building. You know, they couldn't even survive there. So we're flourishing. Good things are happening. We're bringing employees to the area, and we'll do more with the construction that we're doing.
okay, great, thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Fournier?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what I said, which is, you're here asking us for something. I appreciate you acknowledging what's going on there, but more has to be done. We have resources at the city too, so we have a homeless outreach team with BSO. We have a social service coordinator here. So there are resources here, I think, that hopefully maybe can work with you to help if there are people there, so that you're not talking to a Ring camera all night. But, thank you.
No problem.
Very good. Further commission discussion? Questions? Okay, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes,
Commissioner Sigerson-Eaton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Harden.
Yes, thank you. Items number 8 and 9 are quasi-judicial in nature. Mr. Berman will discuss the proceedings we will use. Mr. Berman?
Thank you, Mayor. If anyone wishes to testify on items number 8 and 9, they must be sworn in and may be subject to cross-examination by the city commission or by interested parties. Individuals who address the commission should state their name and whether they have been sworn. City staff will make its presentation first, followed by the applicant or anyone else wishing to testify. Following the concluding remarks of the applicant, the hearing will conclude, and the commission will make its consideration. All those who wish to testify on items number 8 through 9, 8 and 9, I should say, please stand at this time, raise your right hand, and the city clerk will swear you in.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony or evidence that you're going to give will be the truth and the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
Very good. Item number 8 is a first reading of an ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, rezoning property lying north of and contiguous to 2201 West Atlantic Boulevard from RM12 Multifamily Residence 12 to B3 General Business, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Good evening again, Ms. Dolan.
Thank you, Mayor. Jean Dolan, Development Services. The applicant is requesting to rezone the 6 residential lots north of and contiguous to 2201 West Atlantic Boulevard from RM12 to B3, following approval of the concurrent commercial flex request, which you just did. The subject 6 lots are currently vacant and will be developed as a commercial building as an expansion of the existing commercial design center at 2100 West Atlantic Boulevard. The area north of these lots is residential, primary single-family homes, while the area to the south is commercial in nature. The applicant will be required to provide a type C buffer along the north property line, which requires a 10-foot wide space with an 8-foot high masonry wall and required landscaping between the subject lots and the residential to the north. The Planning and Zoning Board unanimously recommended approval of the rezoning, and staff recommends approval. Both the staff and the applicant are present if you have additional questions.
Very good. Does the applicant wish to make any presentation? Not at this time? Very good. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public at this time? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion, questions? Does the applicant wish to make any further? Nope. Oh, very good. Let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
yes,
Commissioner Sigerson-Eaton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Harden.
Yes. Item number 9 is the first reading of an ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, abandoning 4 non-continuous 25-wide right-of-way locations on lots contiguous and north of 2201, West Atlantic Boulevard, and east of Northwest 23rd Avenue, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Once again, Ms. Dolan.
Thank you, Mayor. Jean Dolan, Development Services. This is a request by the property owner to abandon right-of-way that was dedicated via deeds for several properties that have since been purchased for consolidation and development as part of the commercial property to the south. The effective properties are shown on the screen. There are no improvements or utility installations within any portion of this right-of-way, and there have been no objections to this abandonment request. The Planning and Zoning Board unanimously recommended approval at their hearing on April 24th, 2024, and staff recommends approval. Both staff and the applicant are available if you have any questions.
Very good. Does the applicant wish to make any presentation? Nope. We're here for questions. Very good. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion. Ms. Dolan, I've got a question. First off, that's crazy. I mean, that's crazy. But my question is, just north of the property we're talking about, are there also easements on the northern side?
No, the north lots all have access to a street to the north,
Okay.
and so they only gave half of this right-of-way. And this was done primarily with tax deeds. When the Broward County auctions off these lots for not paying their taxes, they'll be like, oh, you need a road. And so they'll require them to dedicate, and it goes on a deed, which we won't even know unless we are exposed to this deed for some reason. So this was not platted, this was not in any kind of public record other than buried in a deed.
Gotcha.
So Cassie, our Cassie Lamonsiere, she was the one who actually discovered this first because she was doing research on landlocked lots within the CRA, and she's the one who discovered this strange holes in the donut kind of.
Yeah.
But anyway, we wanted to make sure that some of the property owners to the north were using this to access their backyard, and they thought they all had some sort of, but this was never intended to be for the properties to the north. This was for the properties to the south.
Understood.
If it was going to be a road, the properties to the north would have had to give up 25 feet of their backyards, and that would have made all their lots non-conforming.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Thank you. Further commission discussion? Questions, concerns? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner
Segerson-Eaton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Harden.
Yes, and that ends our quasi-judicial proceedings. Let's take a 10-minute recess.
Yay.
Very good. All right, let's go ahead and call this meeting back to order. Thank you. We are up to item number 10, is a first reading of an ordinance.
An ordinance amending Chapter 155 zoning code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida by amending Section 155.4501, separation requirements for alcoholic beverage establishments to modify distance separation requirements in the city's Code of Ordinances to correspond with changes in state requirements, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
So moved. Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Good evening, Mr. Weems.
Good evening. I'm Max Weems with Development Services. The proposed text amendment is to correct a definition in our code for the type of restaurant that may be exempted from alcohol sales minimum separation requirements. The separation requirements exist between certain alcohol uses in schools, places of worship, childcare facilities, and other alcohol-related uses. Types of exempt uses are large restaurants, regional package sales stores, beer and wine sales only, etc. The state recently modified their criteria for a license that's called 4COP-SFS. That's a beer, wine, liquor consumption on premises for special food service. Those are for restaurants and hotels. We are now proposing to revise our exemption to match the definition in the state criteria, consistent with precedent. The amendment to the separation exemption requirement in our code are as follows: a reduction in the capacity for patrons from 150 to 120, no longer required to be within a covered area, and a reduction in the required area of the business from 2,500 square feet to 2,000 square feet. There are also two other clerical amendments of no impact on practice. At the March 27th, 2024 Planning and Zoning Board meeting, the members unanimously recommended approval of the proposed text amendment. Staff recommends approval, and this concludes my remarks. I'm available for questions.
Very good. Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion, questions, concerns. Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Segerson-Eaton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Harden.
Yes, item number 11 is a first reading of an ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 155 zoning code of the Pompano Beach Code of Ordinances by amending Section 155.4303, standards for specific accessory uses and structures, by modifying requirements for stored motor vehicles, recreational vehicles, boats, or trailers on residential property, and providing for exemption, by amending Section 155.5102, off-street parking and loading, to provide approval of surfacing materials for off-street parking and loading areas, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
So moved. Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Once again, Mr. Weems.
Good evening. Again, I'm Max Weems, Development Services. The proposed text amendment is at the request of the Code Enforcement Division and the City Attorney's Office. The city has seen an influx in recreational vehicles, travel trailers, or motorhomes stored on residential zoned properties in violation of various city code requirements. In many cases, the RV is being used as an accessory dwelling unit to single-family homes, which is strictly prohibited. The Code Compliance Division and the City Attorney's Office have identified challenges to enforcing this code section and ensuring that the use is in fact storage and not an accessory dwelling. Therefore, the City Attorney's Office, with Development Services concurrence and support, is proposing the following amendments. A new exemption for recreational vehicles and boats, which may be temporarily connected to utilities as needed to replenish electrical and water supplies in preparation for or following an off-premise trip. That's provided there for your reference, but it's basically as stated. To strike a limitation of standards to front and street side yards so that they apply to the entire property, to clarify that RVs shall not be inhabited and shall not be connected to utilities except as provided in the exemption previously stated, and to require that any parking area or surface used for the parking of an RV must be in accordance with an approved plan on file with the city. At the April 24th, 2024 Planning and Zoning Board meeting, the members unanimously recommended approval of a proposed text amendment.
Staff recommends approval. In addition to myself, Mario Sotolongo, the Code Enforcement Supervisor, is here and familiar with the issues. This concludes staff remarks. We're available for questions.
Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion, questions, concerns. Commissioner Perkins.
This is, I was so happy to see this on the agenda. This is so needed because in so many of our communities, we have a lot of cars. You know, when I ride by at least 4 or 5 in the morning, I've sent some of the pictures to Mario. You have like 15 cars in front of one house, and they're packed in there together as though it's a car lot. And then behind the house, there are 2 trailers, and it's all over the area. And I know I have at least 3 of them in my area, Sanders Park area. So I'm happy to see this, and I hope that this help code enforcement to better monitor this situation. Thank you.
Very good. Further, Commissioner Segerson-Eaton?
Yes, thank you. I agree. I'm so glad to see this ordinance come up. I, too, in my district, are seeing a big influx of RVs and trailers that are essentially being rented out for revenue. It is especially disturbing to the quality of life for the adjacent residents. When you have an RV that's pulled up in the backyard somehow, I've seen people cut down their eaves in order to get these vehicles in. I've heard of people craning them over the house. But when you have the people who are, say, in the backyard, who now have a structure that's generally elevated and have windows that overlook into their backyard, it's an invasion of property in that landlords, essentially rental properties, buy these properties or use these properties and bring RVs in that ruin the quality of life for their adjoining neighbors is reprehensible. And in the side yards, it's the same thing. Lights go on. Someone can just look right down into your backyard. You have no privacy. So we have so many in District 2, in the Highlands, Crest Haven, primarily. And I am glad to see that we've changed this order. I want to thank Mario and Max, Mr. Berman, and all of staff who did this, because it has to stop. So thank you.
Very good. Further commission discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead and call a roll.
Commissioner Fournier?
Yes.
Commissioner Moss?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes, yes.
Commissioner Segerson-Eaton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee?
Yes.
Mayor Harden?
Yes. Item 12 is the second reading of an ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 155 zoning code of the City of Pompano Beach Code of Ordinances by amending Section 155.4209 institutional health care uses to modify the standards for ambulatory surgical centers, ASC, and by amending Article 9, Part 5, terms and uses defined to provide a definition for ambulatory surgical center, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded for discussion. Good evening again, Ms. Dolan.
Thank you, Mayor. Jean Dolan, Development Services. This is our second reading of a proposed private sector-initiated code amendment, which is a very narrow amendment to eliminate the 500-foot separation requirement from RS and RD districts for ambulatory surgical centers under 5,000 square feet in the B3 zoning district. Since first reading, there was some discussions with the CEO of Broward Health about it, and he had requested a minor changes to the definition, just to reiterate that there's no overnight stays and that it isn't a physician's office or a freestanding emergency room, which is governed in a totally separate section of our code. So there have been no substantive changes since first reading. Both the applicant and myself are present if you have any questions.
Very good. Thank you for that. Does the applicant wish to make any presentation?
Good evening, Mayor. Commissioners, Matthew Scott here on behalf of the applicant. I don't need to make a presentation. This is the only change from the first reading.
Very good. Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion. Commissioner Segerson-Eaton.
Thank you. I've supported this amendment last time. I'll continue to support it. But I just wanted to repeat again, that in the areas where we annex from the county, the corridors have businesses on them, B3s, B4s, and with our codes, it's nearly impossible to redevelop, bring in businesses that are really not a nuisance or a noise or noxious to the residents, but in fact, enliven the property, improve the property, and make the property safer. So, but the 500-foot, there's nowhere on Sample Road that you could ever get a 500-foot distance separation for a certain type of business, or for that matter, north on Federal, south on Federal, south of Sample. So I just want to point out that that's a hindrance, I think, to our city moving forward. So I just want to say this. I support this wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Very good. Further commission discussion? Commissioner Perkins. And Commissioner
Thank you, Mayor.
Fournier.
So the changes were made, you made amendments based on the discussion you had with the CEO of Broward Health?
Yes, Commissioner Perkins, we, candidly, I think it was confusion with Broward Health. I think they thought this was something it wasn't.
Okay,
So we deferred last time. We were here 2 weeks ago, and I met with them,
good.
their attorney, and we just hashed it out. And I explained that this wasn't what they thought. This wasn't some sort of Trojan horse or, I don't know.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
So
you
I
did.
said, I'll add language so you could feel comfortable. And I said, how does this look? And they said, that looks great.
Great, good. Thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Fournier.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the same question as Commissioner Perkins, but in the future, in the backup, if there are changes, it would be great if we could somehow see that, because it wasn't possible to see what changed. I see it, but it's not a different color, or there's no comparison, so it's hard to know what changed between the first and the second. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for your perseverance with this item. I reached out to Broward Health CEO after the first hearing, and they initially indicated there was no problem, but then at the last second, as you know, they came to the table and said, well, we're just a little concerned. So appreciate you working things out with them. Thank you much. Any further questions, concerns? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes,
Commissioner Sigerson-Eaton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Harden.
Yes. Item 13 is the second reading of an ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, amending Article 25, Sections 250, 251, and 253 to Chapters 57 through 174, Laws of Florida Special Acts of 1957, is subsequently amended and supplemented, otherwise known as the Charter of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, to modify requirements and restrictions relating to contracts and leases, and to revise language to be consistent with state law as to use of ordinances and resolutions, to amend criteria for transfer of city-owned property to other governmental agencies, providing that if the amendments are approved by a majority of the voters at the general election of November 5th, 2024, then such amendment shall become a part of the city's charter upon certification and acceptance of election results, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Mr. Berman.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Ms. McKenna wanted me to pass along her regrets that she could not be here. She's seeing her grandchildren. It's the first time since Christmas, so it was either us or them, and I don't blame her for picking them. So, in the meantime, this is actually the third meeting we've had. The first two meetings we've had extensive discussions. At the last meeting, the commission requested several changes be made, and I'll just discuss those changes briefly with you and point them out to make sure they're to everyone's satisfaction. As discussed under Article 8, Section 2 of the Constitution and Chapter 166021 Florida statutes, municipalities have the broad exercise of home rule powers granted by the Constitution, and the legislature in the Home Rule Powers Act determined to extend municipalities powers needed for municipal government that are not expressly prohibited. We have gone ahead since that time, however, through several measures brought to the voters and restricted that power. We're trying to reduce some of the restrictions to be consistent with Florida statutes and for ordinances and resolutions and what properly constitutes same, and for best practice for government. So The First Amendment, number one, was I changed the order of things. Question 3 per request became question 1. And it was the caption was reduced to be more simple, shorter, and easier to understand. Removing eminent domain from the charter is a requirement for proprietary property transfers to governmental entities. The question, per request of the commission and the mayor, was reduced. Shall the power of eminent domain requirement be removed from section 253H of the Pompano Beach City Charter? Clear, concise, direct, and understandable by the public. So hopefully the commission is in agreement with that. As far as proposed amendment number 2, again, the caption, which is limited to 15 words, was reduced by law, was modified rather, to be simpler, approving contracts by resolution and for terms longer than 5 years with city commission approval. In this question, there was language, because we had room at the end, to show that can we exceed the current 5-year requirement if approved by the city commission. As we discussed, we put that on there, and it's right there for you, and hopefully that meets with your satisfaction. Finally, proposed amendment 3, approving leases by resolution and for terms longer than 50 years with city commission approval. We added city commission approval onto that. We modified that to be simpler, shorter, and more direct, to the point, and hopefully more understandable. We got the legalese out of the rest of the legalese that was in there. We got it out. And again, at the end of this question, we talked about in terms of leases will be allowed to exceed the current 50-year requirement, but we made it clear only if approved by the city commission. And as we discussed, that was added on. So hopefully what we've added and what we've changed meets with your satisfaction in terms of the process that we're going to take to the public. I just want to talk about briefly, because there's some questions, why are we doing this now? We don't know about this. Again, I want to reiterate that this needs to be by next week to the supervisor of elections, so it meets the timetable for inclusion in the ballot in November, on November 5th election. As far as what we have planned for the summer and certainly for the fall before the election, pursuant to section 106.113, expenditures by local governments, this is Florida statute for campaign financing, and that's what affects us, we are allowed to report on official actions in an accurate, fair manner. We can post factual information on our website or in printed materials, just factual, fair, and impartial. We can't say do it, don't do it, but we can explain why we're proposing this and what the questions mean. We can also host public forums and provide factual information in response to inquiries, or provide information as authorized by law. So we plan on doing that, making ourselves available to the public to answer all the questions, and of course to the commission if there are any more questions. But we will be happy to do what we can to educate to the extent that we are allowed to by law without spending public funds. So that's all I have on this really at this time. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Very good. Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Please come forward. Just name and address for the record.
Hi, Audrey Fezzik, 412 Briney Avenue. I was at the last commission meeting, and I just have a few questions for Mr. Berman regarding this, just for clarification, and so I can understand it a little bit better. How does the city currently transfer properties? Is it something that requires city commission approval or public hearings? Could you just walk me through what that looks like in a simple matter, I guess?
How does the state transfer?
No, the city of Pompano Beach.
Transfer properties, we declare that they're surplus, we put them up for bid, but when here we're talking about transfer to other governmental entities. And what's currently required is that they meet a whole slew of requirements, which we're not touching, but one of those requirements is that in any event that government entity would have the right of eminent domain. In other words, the way it's written, it's like they're going to get it anyway. For years and years, we've done transfers with CRA and other governmental agencies that had eminent domain. Of course, we talked about the change in law. The fact that they're an agency created by the city, the fact that they've transferred property to us, we've transferred property to them, that we expected to transfer back, and now when they took away, the state legislature took away that eminent domain power, they no longer qualified. Our contention is that was never the intent of what was put in the charter when the voters went for it, because at the time it was in play and it allowed it. We have projects, we have development, we have parking garages, we have the downtown, we have things that we are moving properties. We're allowed also, by the way, to swap properties for like value or similar value. So these are things that governments do to develop commonly, and to have our hands tied a little bit makes it more difficult to make it better for you and other residents that we're trying to do. There are a lot of restrictions on transferring property currently in the charter. Those are not being touched. We can't get rid of beach property, can't get rid of parks, and we can't get rid of parking lot. All those things we're not touching it. We're not trying to do something sneaky here. We're trying to make it easier to develop these things that we're trying to do in the city.
Okay, that would actually be my follow-up then. Would this allow the city of Pompano to give and transfer property, city-owned property, to the CRA? And would that, as a secondary, would that require a public notice or any sort of public approval process? Or what will change from that process, if at all, if this is changed?
Process wouldn't change. The CRA board would hear it at a public hearing. The city commission would hear it at a public hearing. The public would have input. The public would know about it. Things are not going to change in that regard. It's all up front and in the open.
Okay. And then the last question that I did have was regarding the contracts and lease modifications, how those would be affected, and how would public notice, policies, approvals, how would those happen? I think you sort of addressed it in your previous response, but I just want to make sure I'm clear.
And they're good questions, by the way. If I
Thanks.
understand your question correctly, if I don't, you can let me know. Right now, we're limited. First of all, if we do a contract greater than a year, it has to be done by ordinance. Ordinances are to pass laws, not to approve contracts. That's what state law says. So we're trying to correct that. If it's a lease, it's still going to come before the commission the way we proposed it 2 times. But these contracts come before the commission. Again, public hearings, public discussion, notice, and things are not going to change that much. The only thing we're trying to change is we're limited to 5 years in a contract. We have leases that are proposed for 7 years or 10 years where, and I'll use the fire department as the example, the logistics warehouse. We can get better terms for the city, which means we're getting better bang for the buck for residents. If it's going to go, and we don't want to be limited to leasing property to just 50 years, but again, the city commission's going to have to approve whether it's longer or less than 50 years. So again, this is not done in secret. This is all done out in the open, in front of you, the commission, in front of you, the public, and you'll have your say on it.
Right, and I think that was the reason why, when I was here the last meeting, it was just a little bit confusing. I think people got hung up on just one little section of eminent domain, and I think that the understanding would be a little bit more about what this changes, how it changes, not necessarily for a fire department or for anything else, but how that also changes with CRA, both the one in, both Northeast and Northwest, or sorry, both Beachside and Northwest, how those properties would be transferred, and then how the public would still choose to be able to be involved in that process or not. And I think that as long as we're able to clarify that for the public, I think you'll have a lot, like you said, education is everything on that.
The Florida legislature went to great lengths to take out restrictions from municipal charters, and so they all go into ordinances. Then we added some back. We can put these in our code of ordinances, whatever we want to do to regulate these things. They just don't belong. Charters are like a general framework. They're not supposed to say, you can do this, you can do that for you. They're supposed to grant you the authority to enter into leases, grant you the authority to enter into contracts, the city, not say, but only for this and only for that and not for this, and if it's longer than, that's not what the charter's for. We can
That's
put it
fine.
in the code if commission wants it. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Kenneth Arnold, Pompano Beach, 1849 East Atlantic Boulevard, Pompano Beach.
Dr. Arnold, could you pull that?
Thing-
Because otherwise people can't hear you at home. That's the problem. I mean, we can, I know,
In my
it's
face.
kind of in your face, but
I wasn't used to it. Learning. I talked earlier about baseball, and we were talking about contracts. When we did baseball, it was a 1-year contract. Now it's 5 years. What happens if our city got baseball and made it 99 years? Or what if the contract goes that we can give city land to a government, or it's very vague, because we talked about it last commission meeting. So what happens if a baseball team gets a chance to improve the facility by putting up a gym, and then he has that gym for a certain amount of time because he needs the money to get to the bank to build the building, and at the same time has our city property as a buffer to run his league? Just a scenario. That's why I don't like what's going on. Second thing, my great-great-grandfather, he was part of that park, McNabb Park. Don't know him. He was passed away before I was born. Knew he was a smart man. Had a lot of property. So if you go back in the records, I think back in 22 when Go Bond was, I was all for the Go Bond. And then all of a sudden, that park was being changed. And I came up to you, you can research the tape. I said, hey, the CRA is doing this, and the Go Bond's doing this. And we were losing parks. When we asked for more parks, we're losing parks. So looking at that, the CRA won because that was during COVID, and they had 100 people on the screen saying, yes, we want that park changed to whatever they're making it now. So I said, well, I couldn't even get on that videotape because he had a whatever. I couldn't get on to listen to that argument. So that went through fine. So I asked a lawyer, and a lawyer said, Ken, let me do this for free. And I said, you know, I knew him very well. He knew the city really well. And he said, let me look at it for free. I just wonder what's going on. I saw what you said. And I said, sure, go ahead. He looked into it, and he said, you know, there's nothing there. Don't worry about it. I said, fine. So going forward with this thing, because I didn't know about this, because I don't come to commission meetings, only when I have a problem with some people. And then I come here, and then I get a call about 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, from Cassie. She's in the CRA, land property, I think that's her title with the CRA. So she calls me up and said, do you know, Ken, and she talked to my sister, and the Singletons talked to my sister, and she was fired up. But she calls me and she goes, hey, you know what we're going to do? And I go, what? She goes, I finally got to you, and we're going to make a cookbook, a nice cookbook, and we're going to put McNabb cookbook, and everybody's going to get the cookbook, and then you can get 10% from that cookbook for all we sell from that restaurant. I go, that doesn't interest me, but that's fine. Second thing, she says, we're going to put a family tree up there. I go, no problem. She says, and then what we're going to do, we're going to get you all to sign a quitclaim. I said, what? She goes, sign a quitclaim. So I'm not a real estate person. I said, I'm not going to sign a piece of paper saying I'm giving something away. She goes, well, then we're going to take it to court. Okay? So I'm here because last week the CRA said she works for you, and they're part of the government with the Pompano Beach. I want to know why I would go to court due to not signing a quitclaim. All right? I put it out to you. Maybe you want to find the answers. She said she was going to get back to me eventually. I think maybe some of this has to do with this transition or changing the law. Maybe not. I put it out to you. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Arnold. Yeah, I'm not sure what was going on. It's that's a disturbing report. Mr. Harrison, can you find out what is going on there? And I know Dr. Arnold personally, and I know that he and his family, they do own property in the CRA, the ECRA, but I'm not sure how the talk about going to court would have come out.
I'm not either. Cassie's not in the city attorney's office, and that's the only department in the city to talk to a resident about going to court. So there's either a misunderstanding or
okay.
a mistake.
So can you find out and let us know what's going, how the?
Yes, sir.
That would be good. I appreciate that. Thank you. Mr. Berman,
Yes, sir. Would you
you,
like a response?
do you have some input?
I have some information on this. First of all, that has nothing to do with this item.
I understand that, but
Right. My understanding is that there were some issues in terms of what was filed in the public record when McNabb family transferred the park to the city years ago. And with the development, we're looking to clean up title. I know they're working on that. I haven't been involved, nor have I spoken with Dr. Arnold on this. But the idea was to go to the relatives. We have numerous documents showing that it was dedicated to the city, but apparently nothing was filed in the public record. So and I wasn't part of the conversation, but the option is for us to file a quiet title action. But if everyone's willing and knows, we have adequate proof that that property was long ago dedicated to the city for use as a park. If the family members are willing to sign off on a quitclaim deed, then that would avoid the need of filing a quiet title action in circuit court. So I think that's what Cassie was trying to do. I don't know how she expressed it. She's not an attorney. I don't know what she said to you, so I don't want to speak for her, but I know that's the issue, is making sure that the title to the property is properly filed in the public record. But we have numerous documents that I've looked at months ago which show that the McNabb family had every intent of dedicating that park to the city years and years ago. But apparently they could not file the adequate or proper filing in the public record for that potential. So we're just clearing up some title issues. We have plenty of documentation to show that that was dedicated to the city. We just want to file the proper document in the public record, that's all. But I think the effort, and I think what she was trying to do is just avoid the need to go to court and do anything when the family members are pretty much in agreement. Well, at least some of the family members are pretty much in agreement. And that was a discussion I had heard between our property manager and one of the other attorneys in the office. So that's all. No one's threatening anything. It's just a matter of how we resolve a legal issue.
Okay, well, Mr. Harrison, he'll get us a little more information on that. Please do.
I just want to comment that what she told me was go to court, okay? It didn't say it any different. And then I went down to the title downtown, and we couldn't find anything around 1945, 46, because all the records are lost. The records as far as finding the records. But it was interesting that the young man that was helping me was going through it, and for some reason, I don't understand this, but maybe this could be cleaned up too, that somehow the chamber sold the city their property, then the city sold it back to the chamber, and then the chamber sold it back to the city. So that seems kind of funky to me to begin with. All right? Thank you.
Very good.
It's a funky place.
Thank you. Next speaker. Just name and address to the record.
Vicente Thrower, Pompano Beach, 1890. Mayor, tonight we're talking about this amendment stuff again. And I'm looking at the screen for the people at home. I don't have the backup, and my grandmother don't got no computer. Why is how it's going to be looked at on the ballot, not on the screen, so that the people at home can look at it also?
Well, it's, Mr. Thrower, I mean, we've been through this before, but it is in the backup. But this is not for the public to
see?
Vote on. No, it's absolutely for the public to see, but it's not for them to vote on tonight. Tonight, it's for us to vote on.
Yeah, I know that part.
To either put it on the ballot or not. And that's when we will take every opportunity and every possible option that we have to then present it to the public so everybody can be educated and understand it, see it, understand it, before they actually vote on it in November, if it moves forward tonight.
No, man, I guess what I'm saying again is, why are we sitting in the audience and we can't see if the people don't got a computer, why are we not able, in the past, we were able to see everything that you all have in your backup here and there. Why are we not displaying to the people at home what we're talking about? Like what this amendment would look like in the backup. Does that make sense?
Now I see your question. I don't know why it's not on the screen, to be honest with you.
I mean, if we're going to talk about and say we're going to educate people, why not put it on the screen and let them see that it's starting right here tonight, right?
That's a very good point. Yeah, good point. I don't know
It's
why
a
it's
piece of
not.
paper on the screen saying pump, and it's sideways too. I mean, just look at the paper up there. I'm just saying.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Do we have a hard copy of this?
It's known,
Have it here, I got my notes on it, but you can have one if you want.
No, I don't. I've got this right here.
It's in the backup, it's in Granicus, anyone who wanted it could have seen it, if they had looked for it. and we will be
to the mayor,
distributing this.
to the mayor again, to the city attorney, we're talking about our elderly who are our super voters. If you're asking them to vote on something, don't say it's in the backup and they can go and pull something up. Because now you're about to offend me a little bit on that statement.
Good point, Mr. Thrower. Mr. Alfred is putting it up on a.
No, not
No.
that,
That's the actual questions. No, it's not the agenda, Kervin. It's not the agenda. It's the actual backup.
And this is not being a contrary question to the board. I'm saying if we're talking about saying we ask them to vote on it.
I understand. And it's a good point, but my original explanation still stands. Had this been Ms. Dolan presenting something, it would be on the overhead. That's not to diminish you, Mr. Berman, but it's a different process. We're dealing with just words, not pictures. It's a good point, though. It would have been great to have it up on the screen the whole time, but I'm not sure if all of it would have actually even fit on the
A
screen.
lot of this is balancing on trust. This is going to balance on trust. So that's the reason I'm wondering why it's not up, because we're saying you're talking about it and the voters can't even articulate what we're talking about. Why should we campaign? To the mayor and the city manager, that was how you were able to accomplish this bond. It was because the people trust what you were putting out there. If I can't trust if I can't see it, I'm going to just look at it and say, well, man, I ain't voting. So I'm just talking about, let's go back to how we originally got here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thrower. And there will be lots of activity out there if this moves forward. Further input from the public? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion, questions, concerns. Commissioner Segerson-Eaton.
Yeah, I am very glad that we put removing eminent domain as the number one question. As I recall, that was the main issue. There was so much confusion over that, and that we were able to simplify it per your suggestion, Mayor, is great, because I think that was the biggest concern people had. It was the most talked about. So I like that very much. Thank you. That's all I have right now.
Very good. Thank you. Further commission discussion? Yeah, no, that's Mr. Berman. Good job on that proposed amendment number 1, the eminent domain. Simple, easy. Shall the power of eminent domain requirement be removed from Section 253H of the Pompano Beach Charter? That's the question. That does make it very simple. All of them, I think, are very simple. Whether they will be approved by the voters or not, that is yet to be seen, and we wouldn't know that until it's on the ballot and give the public an opportunity to really see it and opportunity to vote on it. It's
Number one's on the screen.
there.
Number one on
There it is. That's one. That's it. Thank you, Ms. Civil. Appreciate it. Mr. Thrower.
And I
Mayor?
apologize, I barely know how to turn on my computer. I'm not the IT guy, but
I hear you.
Thank you.
But Mr. Thrower did have a very good point. It would have been probably a good idea to just have the questions themselves, without anything else, just so we could put it out there. Good point. Thank you. Commissioner Perkins.
A question, okay, so the last time that we were looking at this, you had the eminent domain third. Now we have it first. Okay, so if the residents vote yes on the first one and no on the last two, then what?
And that's all that changes, is just the first one. The other two fail.
Each one has its own vote. If you vote, okay.
that's why I separated it. You guys asked me to separate it, make it
Right.
individual questions, make it easier.
The way you've turned it around, you had eminent domain the last time, now you have it first, so you're playing on the people. I mean, no, that's just, no. There's something more to this than meets the eye. I would love for you to come into the community of my district and explain it to the residents, so
I told
they
you
will,
before, I'd be happy to do that, ma'am.
yes, so they could, yeah. That's just, all right, thank you.
Very good. I mean, I just have to say that there certainly is no intent to play the people with this. Well, I mean,
Well, that's your opinion. That's your opinion.
You're absolutely correct. That's my opinion.
respect that.
But I don't think that the city attorney's office was trying to put a play on the people either.
Well, I respect what he wrote as well, so, but that's just my,
He was trying to respond to the commission wishes, and the folks that spoke on this issue was the eminent domain was very important. That's why we flipped it and put the proposed amendment number 1 to be the eminent domain. There's no intent to hide anything.
and let's talk about that for a while.
Confuse the
anyway,
people.
Since you brought it up, eminent domain, tell me about that. So I think it was stopped in what, 2006?
Yes.
2006, we could no longer do eminent domain, which means the damage had already been done in my district anyway, of course, when it stopped in 2006. So why are we putting this here if we can't do it anyway? I mean, it's in the language of the contract because the contract has not been updated, is that correct? But we can't do
That's-
eminent domain anyway, can we?
Yes.
Only for
Well,
highways
I'm
and,
just waiting for, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
No, I'm finished, go ahead.
The CRA can no longer do eminent domain to eliminate slum and blight, not the city. The city can use the power of eminent domain, but only for very limited purposes, for roadways, for land it needs for water, if there are no
Exactly.
other options.
Exactly,
That's not what this eminent domain was about that we're removing.
okay.
This doesn't take away or give away anyone.
So what is
What we
this on the
have-
ballot removing? That's my question.
We have in our charter a requirement that if we transfer property, city property that we already own, not that we're
Exactly.
taking, that we already own, that we can transfer it to another governmental entity if they have certain powers. And this was in there for years and years. And it's very clear, those powers, that the power shall provide a benefit, the transfer to the city. The transfer to any other governmental entity wouldn't provide the same benefit to the city and the people of the city, and that the compensation to be received by the city is fair and equitable. There's also a requirement that the agency to which, the governmental agency that we're going to transfer
I
that
understand all
land
that. Okay,
has the
okay,
power of
listen.
eminent domain.
So that's the
It's
same
no
question
longer
that
applicable.
Audrey asked when she came up. She wanted to know, what is the difference between transferring land in the past and now? She asked you that question. You didn't directly answer her. You just went along with what you have written in front of you. So what I'm saying is, if I'm still questioning this, and staff, I think you've done all you can do to break this down, because you have to have 75 words or less for it to be on the ballot. And I think you've done all that you know how to do, and you've studied this, you've worked with it, I guess you prayed over it and everything else. But it's still gonna be, I think, a hard sell. And the way you're turning it around, I still say, in my opinion, Mayor, it's misleading. Now, there's a lot of things going on here, now, because if you have 1, 2, and 3, you have all this on the amendment, but I'm just telling you, that's why I want you all to come to my community and explain it, and by the time they finish questioning you, they're gonna be confused as they were from the very beginning. And I know that staff has rewrote this and rewritten it, and they've gone through it, and they tried to break it down, they tried to make it less words, they tried to do all these things to it. And some kind of way it's tied to the new downtown. Am I correct? Some of it is tied to the new downtown.
Some of it would be used for the new downtown, some would be for parking garages, some would be all these
And then we
development
also
that
have
the
the-
city needs throughout the city.
And then we have the ordinance and the resolution in here as well, and all of that mixed in together, and it's just like, okay. You expect, first of all, you gotta explain to my district, what is an ordinance? It's a law, and it's this and that. And then we wanna get rid of the ordinance, and then we wanna have a resolution where with the ordinance, at least you can advertise it in the newspaper, so now people are not gonna know what we're doing, because we're trying to emulate what other cities are doing. Because the other cities you said are doing this, right?
Other cities are, yes, other
Okay,
cities
and
are
that's
not
what-
using ordinances for contracts.
Right, yeah,
And the
right.
law doesn't
So we're
require
trying
it.
to follow what the other cities are doing, but what I'm just explain it to the public, that's all I got to say, and let them vote, and we'll move forward from there. But that's just my opinion and my take, and everybody's welcome to theirs as well. Thank you.
Very good. Further commission discussion, questions, concerns? Okay, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier,
No.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
No.
Commissioner Seegerson Eaton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Harden.
Yes. Item 14 is a resolution.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, approving and authorizing the proper city officials to execute work authorization number 26 in the amount of $284,928.08 pursuant to the continuing contract for engineering services between the City of Pompano Beach and Carollo Engineers, Inc. for water and reuse treatment plant projects, providing an effective date.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Good evening, Mr. Brown.
Evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Randy Brown, Utilities Director. This is our 5-year update to our water system. It helps us project projects and projections for population growth and demand. This feeds into the water supply plan. It's required in 18 months for the South Florida Water Management District. So we're doing our reuse master plan, our water master plan that'll feed into the water supply plan, which is our water resources. And then that'll be approved by the district for our long-term planning.
Very good. Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion, questions, concerns? Very good. Let's call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Seegerson Eaton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Harden.
Yes. I bet you wish that item was number 1, don't you, Randy? Item 15 is a resolution.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, appointing blank to the Air Park Advisory Board of the City of Pompano Beach for a term of 3 years, said term to expire May 29, 2027, providing an effective date.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. I'd like to go ahead and nominate Donald McNeil, District 1, incumbent. Any further nominations for this item? Hearing none, nominations closed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Item 16 is a resolution.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, appointing blank to the Air Park Advisory Board of the City of Pompano Beach for a term of 3 years, said term to expire on May 29, 2027, providing an effective date.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Any nominations for this item? I'll go ahead and nominate W.P. Davis Jr., incumbent, District 1. Any further nominations? Hearing none, nominations closed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Item 17 is a resolution.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, appointing blank to the Air Park Advisory Board of the City of Pompano Beach for a term of 3 years, said term to expire on May 29, 2027, providing an effective date.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. I'll go ahead and nominate Phil DeSantis for this item, incumbent District 3. Any further nominations for this item? Hearing none, nominations closed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Item 18 is a resolution.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, appointing blank to the Air Park Advisory Board of the City of Pompano Beach for a term of 3 years, said term to expire on May 29, 2027, providing an effective date.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. I'll go ahead and nominate Russell Reichman, incumbent District 3, for this item. Are there any further nominations for this item? Hearing none, nominations closed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Item number 19 is a resolution.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, appointing blank to the Recycling Solid Waste Committee of the City of Pompano Beach to fill the unexpired term of Spencer Laurie, alternate 1, said term to expire on May 24, 2025, providing an effective date.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and second. Are there any nominations for this item?
Mayor,
Commissioner Fournier.
I'd like to nominate Tashana Thomas.
Shauna Thomas, District 3. Any further nominations for this item? Hearing none, nominations closed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Item 20 is a resolution.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, appointing blank to the Recycling and Solid Waste Committee of the City of Pompano Beach to fill the unexpired term of Durward Womack, alternate 2, said term to expire on May 24th, 2025, providing an effective date.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Are there any nominations for this item?
Yes, Mayor.
Commissioner Perkins.
I'd like to nominate Melissa Banner.
Melissa Banner, District 4. Very good. Any further nominations for this item? Hearing none, nominations closed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. That ends our regular agenda. Takes us up to additional audience to be heard. There should be none, Mr. Very good. I see a nod of the head in negative. That takes us next scheduled meeting, June 11th, 2024 at 1 p.m. is a regular City Commission meeting. June 25th at 2024 at 5 p.m. is a City Commission budget workshop, followed that same day, June 25th, 2024 at 6 p.m. by a regular City Commission meeting. Takes us up to reports. Mr. Harrison, City Manager.
Yes, sir, just a couple of things. I'd like to take this opportunity to go on the record and publicly apologize to Commissioner Moss for the lack of communication that my staff had on the McNair mural project. This was a very unique situation. The project's actually been going on since 2019. And all of the people that were involved in the project had never dealt with Collier City. They didn't even know about the Collier City Civic Association and didn't have the acute awareness of how important it was to know what's going on in the community. So that won't happen again. They now know the importance, and be carrying on from that here on out.
Thank you.
The other thing is, I'd like to put in the record with the city clerk, the Assistant City Manager Earl Bosworth's report that he sent to all of you all while I was gone regarding the progress in creating inclusive and equitable historical exhibits. So I'll give that to City Clerk,
What did he say?
and then he can make that part of the record for tonight's meeting, and that concludes my report.
Excuse me, Mayor, City Manager, I didn't hear the last part of what he said.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison, could you speak up some? Sorry.
Yes, sir. Are you saying you didn't hear any of the last part about the report that I'm putting in the record?
Yes.
That Earl did?
Yes, I wanted
And
to.
sent it to you all. So that report's going to be made a part of the record tonight.
What is the
in my
report about?
Pardon me?
What is the report about?
It's about progress in creating inclusive and equitable historical exhibits.
Okay, okay, gotcha.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Very good. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you for that. City Attorney, Mr. Berman.
No report at this time, thank you.
Very good. Mr. Alfred, City Clerk.
Yes, Mayor. I am pleased to announce tonight that I have made a selection to the Deputy City Clerk position. She's here tonight. Brittany, would you mind rising? So they can all see you.
All right.
Yes, Brittany.
And this
Brittany
meeting did not scare her off.
Brittany started out in the clerk's office. Ashley and I had the privilege of having Brittany serve in our office. She subsequently went on to become the Air Park office secretary, where she helped, she managed actually the Air Park advisory board for over 6 years. So Brittany comes with quite a bit of experience in that regard. I am excited to see Brittany apply her skills and talents to help me bring the clerk's office to the next level. She will be coordinating the creation of agendas and providing administrative support. So that's my report for tonight.
Very good. Welcome aboard. Thank you. Very good. All right. That takes us up to City Commission. Commissioner Fournier.
Thank you, Mayor. Two quick things. Commissioner Moss, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I have a lot of residents who've asked questions about condos, so I have been sending them the information about your meeting tomorrow.
Great.
Many of them can't attend, so I'm hopeful that the city, maybe Ms. King or someone, can help ensure we get this recorded tomorrow. There's a lot of interest in being able to view this later. So I know it's a late notice, but I'm sure Carvin will have minutes and maybe audio. But if there's any way we can do anything to help residents access this important information on condos, I would appreciate that. And second, I just want to say that I know I talk a lot about schools. I have spent a lot of time visiting schools in the last 2 months. I've been out at Ely, Pompano Middle, Cypress Elementary, McNabb Elementary. And these principals are so appreciative to see faces from the city. They are appreciative that BSO has been out there. BSO has been actively meeting with all of our school administrators. And a lot of them actually have mentioned the names of our Assistant City Manager, Earl Bosworth. So he has obviously been out there meeting people too. So we're going to keep going with the schools, but I appreciate everyone's support on that topic. Thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Moss.
Thank you. Yeah, I've asked at the Skolnick Center about the possibility of doing Zoom meetings, doing these kinds of meetings on Zoom, and they've said that they don't have the capacity to do that. So I don't know if that's something that would be very expensive, so that it would be prohibitive, but could we maybe just look into that, Mr. City Manager, to see how difficult that would be? I'm expecting a big crowd tomorrow night, but that's what I was going to say. Please, if you live in a condominium, if you're concerned about what's going on, please come and listen to what our two senators have to say. And we're very fortunate that in Pompano Beach we have two senators, because the line goes right down the middle. So I know they're working very hard on behalf of condominium owners. So if you're able to, please come tomorrow night, the Skolnick Center, 7 p.m. I think the senators will be getting there a little early if you want to have a chat with them. 6:30 or so, so please come. Open to anyone from all districts. Thanks very much.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Perkins.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to bring something to Commissioner Moss' attention. The Collier City Civic Association in Collier City, a lot of people attend those meetings and a lot of people do not. So if there's information you need to distribute in the Collier City area, you have the Little League football team, and then you have McNair Center. So if you get the information out in all those areas, I think you could reach a lot of people. I think Phyllis does a good job with the Collier City Civic Association, but just other ways to reach the people that do not attend the association meetings. The last thing I wanted to say is I wanted to let everybody be aware that June 1st is Saturday, I think it is, and we need to start getting prepared for hurricane season. As far as I'm aware, we still have one shelter in the city of Pompano Beach, so I'm always telling residents to be prepared to be prepared. So it's time now to start getting things in order for the hurricane season, because we never know what to expect, and especially as for my seniors. So I have a list of names that I call when there's a hurricane coming and make sure they're all okay, but if everybody can just start putting a few plans in place right now, that would be great. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Segerson-Eaton.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I just want to say that Friday, the first Friday in the month of June, which is June 7th, is the last untapped until the fall. So if you haven't been there, you haven't tried it, really try it. A lot of fun, a lot of food trucks, a lot of booths, wares, food and fun, bands, etc. So that's June 7th. And I also just want to say that the city's Memorial Day, I know, Mayor, I know you will have something, so I'll just briefly say it was a really lovely event, and it has grown since last year, which is great to see, and it was an honor being there. And also the ribbon cutting for the Old Town Square project in Old Town. A beautiful building, well-needed housing for the city, and it was really great to see it come to fruition. It really was. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Yes, no, I'd like to follow up about the condo thing as well, just to let you know. I've been in contact with with multiple of our legislatures up there as well to do a follow-up, one on the east side, because unfortunately a lot of the people who are most effective, the drive is a bit much either way. So I'll fill in everyone once we have a date and everything set up for that. So there'll be another chance. And then again, I just want to reiterate to BSO that I did get a lot of feedback about your presence on the beach, and I was really appreciated the way in which you handled things. And then just that, to ask just Mr. Harrison if we could try and schedule something to start discussing any sort of tweaks and changes or ideas we could make with BSO, Parks and Rec, the beach in general for 4th of July weekend, just so make sure that we are on top of it and making sure this is not a recurring issue. And yeah, just because of the time crunch, I was like, it's June 1st already. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Just a couple of things. First, I want to pass this around the commission. This is the Sanders Park Elementary Magnet School out there. On February 14th, we did a day of service and cutting edge industries. and I were out there. We beautified parts of the campus and the kids in the school. They put this thing together for us just to kind of memorialize it. It's nice. They're very appreciative of what we, the city and Cutting Edge Industries did out there at the school, just to kind of beautify it and pay attention to them. So hopefully we can make that a yearly event at different schools. But I also want to touch on just what Commissioner Segerson and Eaton mentioned about the Memorial Day. It was great. We had a great get together over there. I think it's the biggest crowd we've ever had, to be honest with you. At least in recent history it was. But it's city staff, Parks and Rec, Terrence out at the cemetery. Just everybody pulls together and really made it happen. Assistant Bosworth, he was very active about the whole thing, making sure everything was scheduled and helped with some last-minute details. So it was great to have that, and it's truly a mark of distinction, I think, for our city. So I just want to say thank you to that, and that's it. This meeting is adjourned.